Good day to you all, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in for the third season, round 2 of the MRC BF1 League, presented by the MRC team, sanctioned by New Dimension Racing, brought to you by us here at Sim Broadcast. My name is Travis Mehlinger. I'm joined once again by my good friend Tom Jones. Tom, say hello.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back for another always highly exciting BF1 race.
Yes, indeed. Here you can see we are in round 2 of the Grand Prix of London Borough at the South City Long Reverse Circuit. We got 3 more rounds this season. The next one will be in 2 weeks' time. The Grand Prix of Singapore custom layout, and then 2 more rounds that will conclude in June. Here you can see the configuration. South City Long Reversed Circuit. A very tricky turn 2, late braking, coming from high speed, more than 300 kilometers per hour. Massive compression through turn 3, and then tricky turns 4 and 5 up the hill. The complex turns 9, 10, and 11. And then all the way around to a deceptively quick turn 14 before back on the power and around to the start-finish line. Found in just watching practice and doing a little bit of testing myself, the confines of the circuit, the walls make it look a little bit more challenging than it really is. A bit easier today than what we saw a week ago at West Hill International Reverse Circuit. But obviously the stakes a little bit higher. If you do go off here, you're in the fence, probably in front of some of your competitors. There you can see today's car, once again, is the BF1 and the BMW Sauber, F1.06 car, has a 2.4 liter screaming V8 engine, 19,000 RPM at full song, 720 horsepower in a scant 1,169 pounds, 530 kilograms, lots of power, lots of downforce, not much weight. These cars pedal around to this circuit very quickly. Tom, we've got 14 cars in the server on the grid right now in the background. We'll keep an eye on a few of them. We do have some to talk about, a couple in particular we want to talk about, while we look back to the championship standings. Fragmaster, that is from Sentusara and winner last week, Zdravko Duponiak's performance in round 1 on 29 points. Not too far behind, Born to Race with 21, and then Team Sidus, that'll be Gabor, and a teammate in the server today, Pauli Peltokongas, currently setting the pace in Q1 for Team Sidus there. Master Race car in 4th with 10 points, Furtive Racing on 8, Top Racing with 2, and Road Preza in 7th position with a mere 1 point. Tom, I got a bit ahead of myself, waiting for the standings to come up there. There you can see the driver standings. Just mentioned Zdravko Duponiak, winner last week with 25, and Gabor on 19. And there you can see the standings all the way down to 15th position. Tom, 14 cars on the grid today. We had one driver who confirmed no, but ended up driving anyway. Was a bit nervous about running, and he's looked really strong. That was newcomer last week, Todd Gonzalez, who got around pretty nicely at West Hill, finished about 1 lap off the pace, if I recall correctly, and quite strong here at South City, despite his own reservations. But we do have one driver outside of the 107%. So remains to be seen whether that driver, who we will see in a moment, will be allowed to participate. Q1 has concluded, so we'll start Q2 in just a moment. And there you can see number 14, Tom. We've been talking about him. My apologies. This is the Q2 result. I forgot when we actually come online to start the stream. That is Christie outside 107%, Tom.
Yeah, there we go. He's been struggling a little bit. I think he's quite new and he's just trying to find his footing and get used to the track and get the car going the way. He's definitely improved over the session, so we'll have to see what is deemed. As well as Lara there, just outside as well. Just I think it's about 7/10 of a second there, just missing the gate by, and we'll see what gets deemed by race control.
Yeah, that will be up to race control's discretion. Christie, who's a newcomer, may or may not be allowed to participate, but Gabriel Lara, not a newcomer to this series, has run in BF1 before, so seems plausible. I won't guess how likely, but it seems that Gabriel Lara could be allowed to participate, though the prospects for Christie looking a little bit grim. Once again, this is round 2. We are live here on Sim Broadcast to bring you BF1 racing once again at the South City Long Reverse Circuit. We're about to start Q3 in the background. 4 cars eliminated. The drivers who will be taking part in Q3 are Pauli Peltokongas, who is currently the quickest at 1:14.29, just about 6/10 off the world record by Gabor, who only qualified 9th in Q2. Rafael Costa, Ayub El Nunes, Zdravko Duponiak, Santusara, Igor Santos, Martin Capal, Lucas Rosa, Gabor Jura, and Mark Planels will make up the field for Q3, which should be starting in the background in just a moment. As I said, that Gabriel Lara has disconnected, timed out. He did not make it into Q3, but we expect he should return for the grid. Tom, tricky circuit. As I said, not as difficult as West Hill International Reversed, but requires just as much commitment with somewhat less vision around the circuit and a few tricky corners.
Yeah, definitely. It's always one of those where it's, as you mentioned earlier, the barriers are very imposing here. It makes it look a lot tighter. Of course, you can't see the road ahead of you as a result of that. So it does put a bit of a mental game into place with some of the people who aren't quite as comfortable as they would be on some of the other tracks. But of course, when we were out last time out, it was a lot. If you made a mistake, it was very much game over. Whereas here, the walls are going to edge you on the side of caution anyway. So you're less likely to have a big of an impact. Then if you do have one, you got the whole train behind you who's going to come piling on into it. So there we go.
Yes, indeed. And there are a couple places on this circuit in particular where you could easily get into a barrier that spits you out into your competitors. The first, I believe it's turn 2 on our map, but the first real corner at this circuit, the the right-hand medium-speed hairpin that leads onto the motorway. There you can see turn 2. Thank you for the map. Yeah, coming out of turn 2, there's a little bit of a we'll call it a juke, an opening in the barrier and some armco there where the street intersects some of the entry roads to the motorway. And it's easy to go a little bit wide into that barrier. And if you do, you're back out on the circuit. And then so easy to touch the barriers in turns 9, 10, 11, 12. A deceptive corner because it's ever so slightly off camber. Car relies on downforce to make grip, and it's not going quite quick enough there to get the full benefit of the downforce. So the corner isn't quite as fast as it looks like it might be. Tricky to get through there. Cars coming out of the pits now to start Q3. Saw Gabor get into the wall. Ayub El-Anouni is the first one out on circuit. There is one car hanging out in the garage. I can't tell which driver that is, but we got one just biding time and waiting for everyone else to get out on circuit. And now we wait about 1 minute, maybe a little more than 1 minute, for drivers to start their flying laps.
Yeah, I think Gabor there, he pulled out the pit box, not quite seeing another car coming down the road, and I think they just made a little bit of contact, nothing major, but everyone got away without anything breaking, fortunately. So straight back on as you see riding on board Gabor, who quite frankly I think is the favourite for pole position and favourite for the race here today. He does hold the world record here, and earlier in practice it was just under 4 tenths off his world record time in the open practice earlier. So definitely got pace here, and no one else so far has set a time close to what he had there. So we'll see what he can do when the pressure now dials on up and it really counts.
Speaking of Gabor, we're following him right now. You can see his name there, and then above his name placard, you can see his Twitch.tv handle. New broadcast integration for this event that we will carry forward. You can see for drivers who have chosen to share that information with us, and we've integrated it into our broadcast information. Subscribers who are in the event will have their Twitch information showed above their name boards. So if you want to follow Gabor, if you want to go see if he's online streaming this event, then do follow him over at Twitch. And we encourage you to watch side by side. Stick with us here for all the action on simbroadcast.tv, but definitely go check out the streams of your favorite drivers. Gabor coming across the line just a moment ago to start a flying lap, braking very late into turn 1. Gabor was braking when we were watching him in practice right past the 50, be about the 40-meter board. Watching Zdravko Duponiak now to Mark Planels, who's coming through this tricky hairpin. You get on the power right at the apex, letting the traction control do the work there as we come back to Gabor. Tricky uphill. You want to miss the barrier on the right. Flick the car over to the left and now down to first gear, fully on the power before the apex, letting the traction control do all the work. Car now powering up the hill, full throttle, no lift, into this bend right here. Stay a little bit wide. Quick jab of the brakes down to third gear. Just missed the barrier on the right. Now down the hill, widen the corner as much as possible. Just missing the barriers on the left, right, and second gear. Now easy on the throttle. Rear wants to step out. And now a dab of the brakes, a quick flick in third gear around this corner. Very stable from Gabor, inches away from the barrier. Second gear through this left-hander. Now on the power. Tricky entry here. The track is narrow on the entry but wide on the exit, so it's more like a 90-degree right-hand corner. Runs the car all the way out to the barrier, sweeping down under the overpass and through this very narrow line between barriers there. The barriers come out from the left and then the right across the line at a minute 14.15. A stunning lap time, Tom.
Yeah, Gabor straight out the gate there, stamping his authority. Once again, back fastest in the session. I think that was faster than his lap he set earlier. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but once again, straight there to the top of the tables. And the man to beat is Martin Gabor now coming across the line, I believe, to start his lap, actually, I think. Not finish it. As you see, flying in these cars. All the way top speed, 300-something kilometers an hour, for getting hard on the brakes. Able to brake as late as the sort of 40-45 meters if you're absolutely committed and got it lined up like we know Gabor has. I didn't quite see where Martin managed to brake, but once again flying down the motor, comes off the motorway and then into this just full commitment section here. It's just inches from the barriers and just trying to carry as much speed as possible through these hyper tight sections where it really counts to keep your minimum speed as high as possible.
I did some practice myself to do a little bit of research. I've decided to do that. I did that in round 1, and I will do that for the remaining rounds this season. And I found that not not only is it difficult to see around this circuit because the barriers obscure most of the corners, um, it's also difficult to see out of this car. You sit so low in the cockpit that I cheated a little bit and moved the seat up. I gave myself the Justin Wilson angle, viewing angle out of the car. Raised myself up a little bit to get a better view. Not quite as high as we have with the onboard camera here with Martin Paul. Coming through that awkward arrangement of the barriers, that little juke in this front straightaway, if you would call it that. To come across the line, he did a minute 15.52, respectable for good enough for 8th place. Rafael Costa was very strong in Q1 and Q2 and practice now in 2nd position, minute 14.68. Huge compression down the hill there. Maximum commitment through that right-hander. 3rd gear just missing the cement barrier on the left. Nice and tight with the barrier through the hairpin onto the power and into the traction control up the hill. Tricky corner here. You want to stay a little bit wide so you can jab the brakes in as straight a line as possible to get the car down to the barrier, which he has done. Down to 2nd gear, left, right, inches away from the barriers. Easy on the power through here. Rafael Costa looking very strong through this section. Just as clean as Gabor was through here, but he needs to find half a second if he wants to catch Gabor and swipe that pole position.
Yeah, that's the thing Gabor does. He always looks like he's just cruising, and then he comes out with a hell of a lap, and it just leaves everyone with a lot of work to do. You see now they'll run to the line, take a straight line as fast as possible, holding the inside and coming through there with a 1:14.32. So a good job there from Costa, closing that gap down to less than 0.2 of a second now. Still a bit more work he's got to do going ahead, but it's a good place to start from.
Switched back to Gabor as Rafael Costa came across the line. Gabor did not improve, so Rafael Costa almost as quick as Gabor. Gabor very quick on his provisional pole position lap, but Rafael Costa very strong, not far behind. The order thus far: Gabor pole position, Rafael Costa 0.17 of a second behind, 0.3 back to Paolo Pelticongas, who was not here for round 1 but has joined for round 2. So we switched to Strauko de Poniak, who has not been super quick in qualifying trim. He confided in us early in the week that he had not gotten much practice. Other commitments preventing him from putting in many laps, but we know he is always strong in a race. He said that he simply wanted to get through, survive Q3, and then run a strong and consistent race. Great onboard shots here with Martin Paul coming up the hill now onto the motorway over this little crest. A tricky spot here on the left. Martin is passing now, could be the source of some incidents. Massive compression. You can see the front suspension working on this car. Just misses the barriers there. Wide of the Armco on the left. Martin looked like he was struggling through here the last time we watched him, and he's missed the hairpin by 1.5 meters. So Martin Paul not quite as certainly as committed, but not as precise as the drivers ahead of him, though he has kept the car out of the barriers, which is ever so important here on a street circuit. Snaking through this sequence of bends, rear of the car wanting to get away. Doesn't look to be quite as stable for Martin Paul as it is for Gabor, but very quick through that left-hander. Just misses the barrier. Nice power on exit. Dab the brakes, turn in for this right-hander, and on the power, drive to the start-finish line. Martin Paul a little bit ragged early in the lap, but looking plenty strong for the finish. We wait for him to cross the line. Now, Martin Paul does improve. Oh, no, does not improve. It switched to Gabor just as he crossed the line, and I thought Martin had done a 14.15, which would have been shocking indeed. Martin Paul does not improve, and we look to Gabor, who is now on another flying lap.
Yeah, it's absolutely full commitment from Gabor as normal. It really is so very tricky for a lot of these sections. If you just make a slight mistake, you can wash horrendously because of the sheer just constant elevation change, bits of bumps. Because I think it's very well modelled off London, very bumpy and quite rough, standard sort of road conditions. It always adds that extra challenge to the driver's course. Got so much power under that right foot, and got to really focus on modulating the power and carrying that speed as you can. It really does provide a incredible challenge. I've done a little bit of looking on board from sort of the driver's eye perspective, and it really is a tough and fantastic achievement for these drivers to do the times they're doing. You see Gabor now coming out of, I believe, the second to last corner, this long sweeping right to now just through the little chicane, hugging the inside to set it's a long way further down than I thought it was. And there we go, it's a 14.1. Get a bit closer to Gabor and it'll just pull the gap away again.
Gabor's found another 500s. Hertzentu Sara has come across the line, improves to third position, so he jumps Pauli Peltokangas, who was there in third. Looking at Ayub Elanuni now, down into second gear, a bit wide of the barrier there. This lap might be hard to say because we didn't follow most of it, but didn't get the line exactly the way he wanted through the final corner. Reminded by Elmo now that he is actually just starting a lap, so he would have wanted to be wide of the barrier there, taking no chances and taking care of the tires across the line. Now looking over the top of this helmet, he will brake just past the 50-meter board, keep the car wide and tighten it up at the end to get the power down. You don't want the traction control to upset the car. Easy to get into the power too early, and the rear wants to step out. Flying down this motorway and now looking for this ramp down the hill. Compression here, stay wide on the entry. Just missed the barrier on the right, very close by Ayub. Missed the barrier on the right again, and then the left on the brakes, down to first gear, on the power before he even gets to the apex. Let the traction control pull the car all the way up the hill. Now nice and gentle through here, steering as little as possible to carry the speed, bit wide on the entry, jab the brakes, down 2 gears into third, miss the barrier, on the brakes again, down to second, miss the barrier on the left, then the right, easy power, keep it nice and tight here to open up the entry without having to come across the track, diving past the traffic, slower cars getting out of the way, catching up to another back marker as he dumps down to second gear, car ahead of him staying faithfully to the right, leaving Ayub room on the brakes again, hook the car around using second gear on the power, very smooth on the steering and on the power. Very nice looking lap for Ayub Elanumi. Remains to be seen whether he'll be as quick as Gabor threads this very fast chicane and across the line now improves. Does not improve. Still 0.6 of a second off, though that was a very clean looking lap from Ayub.
Yeah, someone who's a bit of an outlier, expect to be a little bit further up the board, would be last week's winner, Zdravko, down all the way down with a 15.1. So 15.11, so about a second off Gabor, and not really the pace I'd expect from Zdravko. Really think he'd be higher up and closer to the front there. So I have to see if he's got something more in the locker that he's going to be bringing out in these closing couple of minutes. If he's not coming up for a lap shortly, then he's going to be sitting that far back.
Nah, he did tell me that he didn't have that much time to practice, and we know he is always so strong in a race, very consistent. Occasionally makes little mistakes, but he does find the pace when it matters. He had not focused on qualifying, wanted to put together a strong race setup and then perform well when it really matters. Qualifying over now, so we wait for cars to cross the line. One of them will be Igor Santos, this very cool looking blue and pink machine. On the power, down the hill, huge compression through the tunnel there, through this very fast, hardly even a chicane, though we don't have a better way to describe it. Improves 1 position, 14.8, strong lap from Igor Santos. And now we look for Zdravko Toponiak coming around the final corner now on the power, in the traction control, very smooth on the exit. Looking to do better than 8th on the grid. Up and over the curbing here, straighten this track as much as he possibly can. Across the line, does not improve, remains 8th position. And now we wait for more cars to come across. We have Lucas Rosa out on track, is the last car on circuit. He just missed starting a lap before time expired. So that will be the end qualifying. Gabor, stunning lap, minute 14.1 in the top spot. Alongside will be Rafael Costa. Pauli Peltokangas in third, was dropped to 4th and then managed to improve back to 3rd. We missed that. Santusara up to 4th position. That is Zdravko's teammate. Ayub Elanuni in 5th, Igor Santos in 6th. Lucas Rosa will start 7th. Zdravko Toponiak, championship leader, winner last week, in 8th. Martin Kapal will start 9th. And in 10th position, we have Mark Planels. Tom, as you predicted, Gabor, class of the field, as usual. Rafael Costa, no slouch, but I think a little bit surprising to see him there in second position. Clearly inspired, perhaps also did a lot of practice, but very strong qualifying performance from him. And then in third, Pauli Peltokangas, a strong driver in any car. New to the BF1, well, new to this season anyway. He didn't participate in round 1. Make up the top 3.
Yeah, Costa's done a very good job there, and I think he just needs a really good start and try and jump Gabor off the line, maybe come up with a different strategy just to get past Gabor, and then he can really sort of fight. Because if you let Gabor get away in front, then it's going to be a bit big feat to catch him and bring him back in, but I think he does have the potential to get ahead of him and then try and fight his way through.
And on a street circuit, any street circuit, but this one in particular, a few long runs, but otherwise tight and twisty. Drivers will definitely have to capitalize on others' mistakes in order to make up positions. So easy to make a mistake, collect another car. You can lose so much time just touching a barrier or going a little bit late in the corner. It will be difficult. It will be difficult to pass here, difficult to make up positions. Probably a strategy call from Stravkan Dupunyak. If he wants to finish strongly, he's all the way down there in 8th position. He may have to come up with a little magic of his own, beyond his own pace and talent, to try to retain his championship lead, or at least limit the damage that could be done by these very strong drivers at the front. In the background, drivers will be joining the briefing in just a few moments. We've gone to the lobby screen while everyone gets ready. So we will take a breath for just a moment, and then we will return to bring you the race, to set the grid, to roll off for the formation lap. We'll be back in just a moment. We are back here on Sim Broadcast for round 2 of the 2023 season of the MRC BF1 League. We've got a few things to talk about while we wait for everyone to ready up in the background to set the grid for the formation lap. First one, we have qualifying results from the qualifying session. At the top was Gabor, as we've talked about, minute 14.1, only a few tenths off his world record time at this circuit. Not far behind, Rafael Costa in P2, 2 tenths clear. Pauli Peltogongas will start third, Sentusara fourth, Ayub Elanuni in fifth, Igor Santos, Lucas Rosa, Zdravko Toponiak, Martin Kapal, and then Mark Planels making up the remainder of the top 10, followed by Mohammed bin Ismail, newcomer to the series, Todd Gonzalez, who had some reservations about running today, but has just chosen to start the race in 12th position. Then Gabriel Lara, Farkas Christie, who were not inside the 107% time. Gabriel Lara has previous experience in the series. Farkas Christie, allowed to start under the officials' discretion, will be the 14th driver on the grid. And then 2 drivers who had confirmed but have not attended today. You can see there, no time, obviously will not be starting the race. Tom, strategy today. So I did a little bit of my own reconnaissance, and I think drivers will have some tricky decisions to make. About 35 laps to a stint on fuel. R3 is absolutely the primary tire. R2 and R4 will not be strong. But R3 can just double stint, but if drivers make mistakes, if they slide, if they wear them, there's a risk of a puncture. So drivers will have to be judicious with their tires and then maybe make some risky decisions when they choose to stop.
Yeah, it's going to be one that they're going to have to make. That they're going to have to be cautious of and make some decisions on. Track position very strong around this track, so quite possibly don't take the double stint them. Sorry, don't try and run. Don't try and do that change just because you're going to lose a bit extra time in the pits, which you might be able to save if you're able to possibly start on the R4 or the R2. Probably the R4 and run a low fuel setup, do your laps on there and then change to double stint the R3s back. It's going to be very difficult for people to make their way past you later in the race with your worn R3s simply because of how tight it is.
Yeah, and that will be the tricky decision that drivers have to make. R4, definitely the safe decision because they're so difficult to overheat, but they're going to be so slow around this circuit. R3s don't get fully up to temperature except on the surfaces. They don't work very well until well into the stint after they've hit the heat peak. But R2 prone to overheating. So drivers will have to choose if they want to try to survive on R2s, tiptoe around with them with a little more grip than they would have on R3s, or go safe with R4s that will be stone cold for 5 laps. And then the question will be, Tom, when would you take the short stint? R2s or R4s? Either one, notwithstanding here. Do you take the short stint at the start or at the very end?
I'd take the R4s off the start, wait for the safety car to come out lap 2, sit 3 laps under safety car, dive in the pits, and then run R3s to the end. And
well, there you've led into what was going to be my next question, which is your bold predictions. We need a graphic for this. There's a gentle reminder for our production team in the background. Tom's prediction segment. So obviously one of them will be safety car, and you seem to think it will be in the first lap.
Yeah, we've got the 12, 13 drivers here, and it's always that's when really the carnage is going to happen when everyone's as close as they are. As the cars there rolling off for their warm-up formation lap now, in the background, see the safety cars in the background moving off to their positions around the track, and the drivers going on their procession to warm up the tires and get some heat in the brakes. But yeah, reckon what lap 1, lap 2 is where we're going to see the safety car. Field's going to be as bunched as possible. Either that or maybe later on in the race when some of the lap traffic happens, maybe during the middle of that pit cycle window where people are going to have the different tyre pressures, tyre compounds, and we're going to have the field bunching there and the different strategies sort of coming to a head.
And speaking of strategies, we can see tire compounds fitted to these cars off the formation lap. Gabor, Rafael Costa, R3s, Pauli Peltogongas. Tom, I think, he's certainly one of the drivers who's going to take the short early stint, but the only one who has chosen R4s. Santusara, Igor Santos, Lucas Rosa, R2s, notably Zdravko Toponiak, there in 8th, choosing to run a full first stint on R3s. What do you make of that?
It's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see. I don't think that R2 is a good strategy, Travis. I don't know. Did you get many laps on the R2s during your practice? And how long do you reckon they're going to last? Probably 3 laps, you reckon?
Well, so there are some sprint setups floating around that use R2s on the rear, so they can last. They're just difficult to manage. You use the rear of this car because there are so many slow medium speed corners where the downforce doesn't help the front of the car grip because it isn't moving fast enough. You really use the rear of the car to help it rotate. So you have to be careful with the rear. R2s can work, but you force the car into the corner to try to make it grip. It's really easy to overheat the R2s at the rear and especially the front. So I don't know. I'm not sure what I make of that, but they only need to make it 5 laps on those R2s, so maybe it will work. Seeing Ayub El-Anouni all the way down in 14th, he is taking a pit lane start. Interesting decision because he was 5 or 6th on the grid, and car number 7, that is newcomer Christie, upside down, so this will be an aborted start.
Red flag.
Not
red
even
flag.
an aborted start.
Car rolled
Red
on the
flag.
formation lap.
Red
we
flag.
will do a complete restart in a moment.
Tom, I'm sorry to tell you, your prediction is no good. Perhaps we could call this a safety car before the start. Is it a safety car if the race hasn't even started?
No, it's session aborted, really, isn't it? It's not. It's not really started. So yeah, I'm sure they'll get that all sorted, and I'm sure he'll make the start of the race. But I don't think there's going to be any issue there.
There we go. We've reset the grid. I don't know if that means another formation lap. I missed the race director instruction. So there, I've just heard that there will be another formation lap, which is good because we were enjoying one another's conversation. There we go. Gabor away. Rafael Costa.
Green flag for formation lap.
Santu Sara going. The green flag call. You saw the flash on the screen there once again. The grid will now have... Well, it could have 14 drivers. I expect that Ayub will choose to take a pit lane start once again. Whether this grid will include Christie, I don't know, though he is rolling away in order. Yeah, I guess he'll be cleared to start. We aborted the start. He will rejoin. Everyone is out on circuit. Ayub El-Anouni is driving behind the order here, so I'm not sure why he had elected to take a pit lane start earlier, if he had disconnected and we missed it, or...
No, what happened is he forgot to do his slight adjustments and get his actual race setup sorted, so he was on the totally wrong setup for the race, so he had to quickly go back to the pit to get it sorted, and there we go. I think that's
Pala.
Yeah. He's tried to warm up the tyres and someone's just dipped wine. They're having an absolute nightmare trying to do this formation lap.
So I said that this circuit is easier than West Hill International Reverse, and I stand by it, but I think I don't know, some jitters from the drivers, some challenges getting around slowly, warming, perhaps aggressive tire warming technique has been the undoing of a few of these drivers. We'll have a bit of grid shuffling to sort out. The drivers will need to rejoin their grid positions, which I'm sure will just be a riot for everyone trying to come around. I'm being reminded now that drivers will need to start in whatever position on the grid they have fallen down to in the order. So this might be tricky for all of these drivers to figure out where they're supposed to be on the grid. They'll need to pick the next free spot, but it can be a little bit disorienting when you end up in the wrong place in line and you've already made a mental note of the driver you're supposed to follow.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one where there you go. There's a little confusion happening there in the background, but everyone's slotting back in the position where I think they need to be. There you go. Happened again, slightly further back, coming back up where they were to get it slightly wrong, but I think we're all getting into the boxes fine at the back there now. I think there's another person who I think they're not quite got it, or maybe just taking their time, edging back into their boxes, trying to get their tyres as warm as possible before moving into the pits.
Yep, drivers judiciously figuring out which boxes they are supposed to be in. It appears everybody has it pretty well sorted. One car stopping at the back of the grid with the course car behind, so we should have a start in just a moment. During the shuffling of the order there, Stavko Duponiak promoted to 7th, and Ayub back there is up to 4th. Now, lights coming up, 3, 4, 5, engines at full song, 19,000 RPM. Gabor away from the line. Rafael Costa, good start from Santusara. Costa alongside Santusara. Santusara is through into second position and almost single file now on the brakes coming into turn 1. You want to brake late, but tricky when there's a line of cars ahead of you. One car backwards, that's Zdravko Deponiak, and another car in the barrier that looked like Todd Gonzalez got together with Zdravko Deponiak. Oh, Zdravko couldn't get the car spun around either, so full reverse now at the very back of the grid, though he's ahead of Christy. Gabor leading side by side into this tricky uphill third gear turn. Everyone cleanly through. Gabor into the hairpin, followed by Santusara, Rafael Costa, Pauli Peltokangas, and Ayub Elanuni. Ooh, a little bit of bumping in the background, another car sideways. But everyone through. Drivers sorting out into single file as they were going up the hill. And now looking back from Gabor. Tom, very nearly safety car moments there on the first racing lap. But thus far, everyone through cleanly.
Yeah, quite fortunately, I think something that I've just been keeping an eye on in the background, car 7 was having some issues with, I think, something getting going off the start line. They have managed to get going now, so that shouldn't be an issue. And I think they're about 3/4 of a lap behind. So they're going to get overtaken relatively shortly, but shouldn't be posing an issue for the drivers leading the way now.
Christie was struggling managing traffic as we watched Santusara in the slipstream of Gabor. Not close enough to make a pass here unless it's a very brave dive indeed. Thinks a bit better of it. Chooses to follow Gabor through right there on the right as Gabor passed the Armco. That's a tricky spot on the circuit we identified in practice. Santusara right up the diffuser of Gabor. It goes by on the outside into this turn. Up the hill, rear of the car stepping out as he comes over the crest, but collects it. Santusara on R2s. He'll be very quick for a couple laps, but those tires are going to be very hot indeed if they are not already. Looking back to Martin Kapal, rear of the car sliding around these undulations in the circuit, navigating between the barriers, nearly every one of these corners blind. Igor Santos now all by his lonesome there. He's got a second ahead and a couple seconds behind, so plenty of breathing room for him. As we look to Pauli Peltokangas, the only runner on R4s who appears to be struggling for pace. Also struggled on the formation lap. He was supposed to start third and ended up down one position. Is in the same position where he started, but now we look ahead to Santusara, who is going past Christie, who just ducked into the pit entry, with Gabor trailing Rafael Costa, Pauli Peltokangas, and Ayub Elanuni behind. Everyone single file, everyone running cleanly. 13 cars on circuit, 1 into pit lane. We are well and truly underway as Santusara tries to extend this lead and manage these tires.
Yeah, I think done a good job with the... Oh, here we go. We've got Lara and Kapul there right on each other's tail. Tucking back in. Breaking a bit late there for Lara, just having to sort of bail out before making contact too much. I think he did have a little tap there, which gave a little nudge, but no one's able to get too bad. But he's going to have another go now, coming down into the turn 3. Moves out to the outside. Got the slipstream, swoops around the outside, but Martin Kapul's going to the fight back up the inside. And there's a car spun in the middle of the road. I don't know who that was. Gonzalez spins it round, just manages to avoid having the collision there with Ishmael at the back, but fortunately Martin Kapul holding that ninth. But no, I'm getting all confused. What happened? It just happened. Sorry.
Thus, Gabriel Lara was able to get through there, Tom, when I think Martin Kapul had to make a very late lift and evasive maneuver to get by Todd Gonzalez. Incredible driving by everyone to avoid hitting him, and then Todd Gonzalez to be just out of the way and then do the flick turn to get going again. So high praise for Todd Gonzalez to stay us out of the way the best he could in a tricky spot on the circuit. Watching Gabor now, who is losing time to Santusara. Not surprising considering how Santu is on R2s. And then there's this train from 3rd, 4th, and 5th behind Gabor, who running, well, Ayub and Rafael Costa will be running similar strategies on these R3s. They'll run to about lap 35, but Pauli Peltokangas holding his own there on R4s. We expect him to dive into pits probably 1 or 2 laps time. And car 7, black flagged for unsafe driving. He will be well and truly out of the way of the leaders. He will not pose a danger to them. He has been excluded from the race. 13 drivers on circuit. Christie no longer running, has spectated. And there we have it. There were 14, now 13. Zdravko Duponiak there, Tom, in 10th. Not how he wanted this race to go, but he has made up positions after his first lap spin. Tom, perhaps having some difficulty with his microphone. Apologize for that. We'll check on him and make sure he's okay. Following Zdravko Duponiak. Ooh, car behind him. Lucas Rosa into the wall a little bit. Zdravko Duponiak, he needs to make up positions, but he's on the same strategy as all the leaders, so he has to do this the hard way. Gabriel Lara and Martin Capal still fighting. Zdravko Duponiak going to go by both of them on the outside. Ooh, one of them anyway, side by side with Martin Capal. Very tricky through here because it's hard to spot the entry into that little juke through Gabriel Lara, now in the slipstream. And Zdravko Duponiak now up. Oh no! I was about to say Zdravko he was in the slipstream of Mark Planell's. He had it all done, and then Gabriel Lara, a little too late on the brakes, just touched the rear of Zdravko Duponiak, and now Zdravko has all of that work to do again. He will be sick. Perhaps we've seen him drive so quickly, so inspired when he really needs to put the hammer down. So plenty of time left in this race to see some Zdravko Duponiak magic.
Yeah, you say that though, Travis, but the back of his car's about as straight as a spoon, so he's going to have an absolute nightmare trying to get that thing back up and getting the pace, because he hit that wall very hard with the rear of his car. So it's just an absolute nightmare. He never seems to have any luck here in the BF1 league. So I hope he's able to keep fighting. Of course, he does have 70 laps to go, so a long time to just keep fighting and never give up. Because the safety car, of course, will bring him back into it.
I think Never's a bit strong because he had incredible luck last week on account of a virtual safety car to put him in contention. And then Gabor finishing the job for him by putting a wheel off and spinning out of the lead. But other than that one event, Gabriel Lara alongside Martin Capal again. A spirited fight from these two. Oh, into the barrier. Gabriel Lara, I don't know if he didn't see Martin Capal or if he thought he had cleared him. Surely this will draw some attention, perhaps a penalty from the officials. Dangerous driving from Gabriel Lara. Martin Capal was fully alongside, and Gabriel Lara just drove into him.
Yeah, I think Lara just didn't quite see him there, but it's good of him to have moved out of the way and give the position back. Knew he was in the wrong and not trying to take that sort of unfair advantage there, so it's very fair of him to do that.
Indeed. Now Zdravko Duponiak, we can see him in the background. Yeah, we mentioned his good luck last week. Bad luck otherwise. He has definitely been the recipient of a lot of bad luck. Has it all to do here today. There is Igor Santos in the pits. I believe he was one of the R2 runners. He has switched to R3 and repairing damage. We didn't get a chance to talk about this, Tom, in the run-up to the race. Repairing damage will be required after every stint today. So much compression in turn 3 and then going through the tunnel, the underpass, coming onto the main straightaway. A full stint of the stresses on the rear suspension, particularly the left rear, will damage it to the point that it breaks. So drivers compelled to repair damage every time they stop, and if they don't, here we see Zdravko Duponiak cuts in front of Ismail, just enough room there. I know, aggressive driving from Zdravko. Ismail should know that Zdravko's the championship leader. Sorry, Tom. You called him there. Lara spun right there in front of Zdravko.
He just clipped the barrier, that bit where it sort of sticks out. He just ran a little wide, clipped that, and now he's having an absolute nightmare trying to get it turned around. There we go, pointing the right way. Shouldn't have any traffic for a couple of seconds, so he should be able to get going and just try and climb back. But he's done a big job to drop himself back. Moving up now to Sara, Santu Sara there in the lead of the race still. He is definitely coming to the end of his lifespan of those tyres now. Gabor is reining him in, so he's probably going to struggle a bit. The back marker ahead there, I believe, is Rosa, but he's going to have, hopefully we'll see him coming and get out of the way shortly.
Yeah, Sara made those tires work well in the first few laps. They are now positively roasted. I'm sure Lucas Rosa accounts for some of the gap that Gabor has reclaimed, but this car will be a handful on tires that are as boiling hot as they are, especially through here. That stresses the tires, especially the left rear, so much through the compression. You're so committed into that right-hander up and over the crest, and because the car gets light over that crest when you're trying to miss the barrier by inches, really easy to spin the tires and slide. Santu Sara managing it well, extending that gap slightly now that the back marker is out of the way. But I find it, difficult to think that he'll be able to manage this much longer. Just as I said that, slides through that little chicane. Gabor through into the lead. Santusara has to come in and dispense with these tires.
Yeah, if you were wearing a hat, Travis, I'd tell you to start eating it, because it seems that every time you say something about one of these Fragmaster cars, it goes horribly wrong for them. So it's not going well. But there we go. Santusara carry on for another lap with these tyres, which personally, I wouldn't make that decision. But then again, he's probably got a plan and a strategy, wants to stick to it, suffer the pain a bit now, and really make the gains on it later. I think maybe try and stick in Gabor's slipstream to put him down the straights and minimise the losses.
So were I in his position, and I knew I didn't have the same pace as Gabor, and I just wanted a strong finish, I think I would consider stretching these R2s as long as possible, because the R3s, Gabriel Lara has timed out. So, the officials won't have anything to do with that, because he's now done the job for them. He is off. He is reconnecting, so he may yet receive some scrutiny from the officials. He will get his laps back, but he'll be a lap down. Santusara, I was saying that I might try to stretch these R2s, because the R3s, if you take very good care of them, can go almost 70 laps, a little bit more than 70 laps. That is Mark Planell's on the screen. As I was talking about, Santusara's tires nearly got into the back of Martin Kapal. Does get into the back of Martin Kapal. Spins up the tires. I think he has the traction control minimum speed a little bit too low. Stravko having a run at Martin Kapal now, who was slowed down by Mark Planell. So Stravko Deponiak making up time. Yeah, the R3s, you can double stint them, but you have to take very good care of them. Too much sliding or spinning of the tires risks a puncture if you do try to go very long. So Santusara could be stretching the R2s to make sure that he can go the distance on R3s.
Yeah, interesting way of putting it. He's going to have 65 laps to do now, at least, on the R3s when he gets there. So I don't know, roughly how long do you think it's going to take for those R3s to get there? What's your recommendation on the R3 sort of distance they're going to last?
Well, I ran 35 laps on them easily in some practice, and I think I would have been tight getting to 70 on them, just because I had a few big slides and spins, as Zdravko Deponiak is alongside Martin Kapal coming up the hill and onto the motorway now. But if Santusara can go another 5 laps on these R2s or even longer, then he can make a set of R3s easily last the race distance, and he doesn't have to fuel as much. So he'll be able to run quicker on the ideal tire. I don't think this is quite over for Santusara yet. I think this is an interesting strategy call. If he can keep the car between the lines, avoid losing time, making little spins like that, his best lap is a 16:33 on these R2s, so his pace has been good despite the condition of those tires. Mark Planell's backward as we continue to talk about Santusara's strategy. He's out of the way, but he'll need to do a flick turn, and he needs to do it quickly. Yeah, he's reversing. He doesn't have the TC override bound, so he's in a very dangerous position, but he's not getting out of the way. And he's disconnected. I think, the officials will take a dim view of that, but I think that's the sportsman-like move to get out of the way if he feels like he can't do it safely.
Yeah. Oh well, it's happened, and maybe he might rejoin, or we'll see what happens. But it's up to the officials to decide on what happens there. Back at the front, Santusara now it's just dropped away from Gabor. It's back to being the Gabor show as he's disappeared up. I think he's pulled something around 2.5 seconds away from Santusara now, and I think these tyres are absolutely screaming. He's really struggling to get the power down out of the even medium speed corners. Just looking to see the traction control light up a lot for him, as we see Pelekangas now right sniffing the rear diffuser of Costa ahead. So really looking for a perfect opportunity to go for the start finish. Santusara has now dived into the pit lane. Of course, Pelekangas as well on those R4s as well. So he's going to have slightly slower capabilities on that.
Paolo Peltagongas making these R4s work really well. I didn't expect them to be nearly as good, but clearly they are stronger than we expected. Santusara still stationary in pit lane as we watch Paolo Peltagongas all over the rear of Rafael Costa. Paolo Peltagongas could also go long on these R4s. Clearly the pace is good, only 7 seconds back of Gabor. drive-through penalty there for Lucas Rosa, causing a collision, lap 1, turn 3. That will be with Zdravko Deponiak, who has moved up to 5th position. He's 29 seconds off the lead, but I think he'll still be rather frustrated with the way his race has gone. Santusara has now left pit lane. He'll be pretty close to the end of the lead lap by the time everything sorts out. Great onboard shot with Pauli Peltokangas here. Rafael Costa, nice and smooth through this sequence of bends, these medium speed corners where the downforce doesn't work as well, really relies on the mechanical grip of the car. Pauli, the rear of the car, stepping out, manages to collect it. Pauli right there with Rafael Costa harassing him all the way around the circuit. But meanwhile, Ayub Elanuni has not gone away. He was right there and not too far behind them. Oh, sorry, that is a back marker. Yeah, much further behind them will be Zdravko Deponiak, another 20 seconds back. So close-ish race at the front, 9 seconds separating the top 4, and then a long way back to Zdravko Deponiak in 5th.
Yeah, I think Pauli Peltokangas, sorry about that. He's in that opportunity. He's closing in because he is running so much less fuel. I highly doubt he's going to try and push a full stint with the R4s. He's definitely trying to go shorter, and that's why he'll be so much closer on those R4s than you'd expect, simply due to the reduced fuel, which makes, because of how light these cars are, it makes such a big difference.
Martin Capal coming into pit lane right now, switching strategy. Well, he could be switching strategy. This is a pretty short run for R3s. Tires way too hot, struggling for grip, and the front of the car is broken, and he has chosen to pull straight into a garage and spectate. I think Martin Capal has had his fill of this car, and he is yet another victim of the streets of South City.
There we go, swap back to Gabor, just leading the way, managing the race ahead now. He's got 8-second margin back to Costa, who hasn't done his pit stop yet, of course. Santusara has and is 50 seconds back, so have to see where that sort of spins out towards the end of the pit cycle and see how close the margins are there.
As they run 14 laps into the race, Gabor, as Tom just said, in the lead, as we are used to seeing him do. Rafael Costa 8 seconds back, still leading this train from 3rd down to 5th. Ayub Elanuni, that gap rubber banding a little bit. Now about a second behind Pauli Peltokangas. You can see him just coming down the hill in the background there. Pauli Peltokangas, very strong. He was very fast in qualifying. Didn't run round 1. Turned up here today for round 2. Has been very strong in race trim and also in qualifying. And he's just hanging around there behind Rafael Costa. I have to believe he wants to get by. He would try to take the position and drive away. But it certainly looks, as we watch them run, that he's content to follow Rafael Costa around. That gap is fairly stable. If it's growing, it is only growing a tenth here or there. So Pauli Peltokangas, Rafael Costa certainly appear to be in a strong position in this race. Don't know that they have anything for Gabor at this point, but Pauli Peltokangas on those R4s definitely on a different strategy from the cars around him, so may yet have a card up his sleeve to play later in the running.
Yeah, I think it might just be a case that Pauli Peltokangas has that lower fuel. I don't think it's a case that he's happy to sit behind Costa. I think the R4s just aren't giving him as much grip, but the lower fuel is meaning he can stay in touch with him, and the slipstream he's getting down the straights is keeping him there. But I think we're seeing towards the end of this R4 run and the point where we should start to look to get them changed and get moving on to the R3s to try and push it forward from there.
Perhaps you are right. Looking back from Rafael Costa, this is the closest race on circuit right now. Gabor has, as he usually does, disappeared into the distance. We did have a drive-through penalty for Gabriel Lara, failure to serve a that's a stop-go penalty for failing to serve a drive-through in time. Pardon me. Looking back, Rafael Costa, again, this is the closest race on circuit. These two very precise, running very close. You can see how close Pauli Peltokangas gets to the barriers on the exit of that corner, and then Rafael Costa on the entry and the exit. Pauli Peltokangas all the way out to the barrier, up over the curb and onto the cement bedding that the barriers are fixed to. Once again, Gabor in the lead. That gap up to 8.4 seconds, so he's growing at about 0.2 of a second per lap. We expect Gabor and Rafael Costa will go the full distance on a fuel load. That is 35, maybe 36 laps if they stretch, though it doesn't look like Gabor is saving any fuel. He is running flat out. Peli Peltogongas in third. Don't know yet. We have no expectations around when Peli Peltogongas may stop. I think, Tom, that you are right. He's running low fuel and just making the R4s work the best he can, since they won't be as quick as R3s, as we watch Lucas Rosa, recipient of an upgraded drive-through penalty to a stop-and-go penalty, in the sin bin and out again. He'll want to stay clear of the white line. He does. Off and running in 10th position. And away we go. Away he goes with his race after some comings together with his competitors in the first few laps.
Yeah, always a messy start with this one. It's so tight in places there. And you've got the high speed run into sort of turn one. It's all a bit squiggly as well, so it just makes the cars a little bit unsettled. And then you just got to really try and judge your braking point as best you can. And unfortunately for him, on lap one, he didn't quite get it, as Gabor just sets the fastest lap of the race, doing a casual 16.23, which is nearly half a second faster than what Costa's done, and really just sort of extending his lead and stamping his authority over this one.
Yeah, and he won't want to make the same mistake that he made last week. He wants to get well and truly clear of all of his competitors. If he could make a pit stop advantage, which it certainly looks like he doesn't quite have it yet, but if everyone is going to be stopping around the same time, he could retain that lead. I have a prediction, a mid-race prediction, Tom. I don't often do these. I usually leave the predictions to you near the beginning, during qualifying or at the start of the race. I think Gabor, at least as the race runs right now, I think Gabor can get the Grand Slam. Pole position, fastest lap, win the race, and lead every lap. If he stretches all the way to 35, as long as nobody else can pass him under pit stops, he might well be on for it.
Well, Travis, I'm going to tell you your prediction is already tremendously incorrect.
I will interrupt you to say that I had forgotten that Santusara led the opening laps. Ugh. All right, carry on.
So yeah, that's it. Santusara, of course. Oh, there we go. Peltogongas has come into the pit lane now to get those R4s off. He's going to swap to the R3s, and I'm sure he's probably going to full fuel, fix a little bit of the damage, and do a big push now towards the midpoint of the race.
Well, I got in quickly enough to avoid letting you have the satisfaction, but I do feel like a buffoon for completely forgetting that Santusara had led to the opening laps of the race. There you go. Gabor will get the Grand Slam from lap 76 or 77, or from lap 5 or 6 of the 75. I have no idea what I'm talking about. My apologies, everyone. Now, Gabor in the lead, only 9 seconds ahead of Rafael Costa. So Rafael Costa, though he does not have Gabor's pace, he's not gone away. He's only a 10th or 2 off here or there. Ayub up to 3rd now, with Peli Peltogongas falling to 5th after his pit stop. Peli Peltogongas now on the prime tire after coming off those R4s, making them work very well in the early running. Stuck there with Rafael Costa for the first 17 laps of the race. Zdravko Konyak up to 4th. Not making much progress. He's hovered around 28 or 29 seconds behind Gabor, but I think that gap is going to slowly grow. Definitely a recovery race for Zdravko Konyak after he was punted a few times in the first 3 laps, once at the first corner on the first lap, and then coming together with not Lucas Rosa, Gabriel Lara, sorry, in the 3rd lap. So through no fault of his own, having to drive hard to make the most of what has been a frustrating day so far.
Yeah, it's always a difficult one, especially with street circuits, and the odd collisions that you can have with these events can always drop you on back and really give you a big challenge. But of course, there is that high rate of attrition, and Zdravko is finding himself in a very lovely 4th place right now. Definitely, I think a podium is on for him. He just needs to keep on going and see what is able to come off the rest of this race. Travis.
There, you just saw the ledger of pit stops. Everyone on R3s now. About half the drivers have stopped. One that has not is Gabor. Rafael Costa also yet to stop. Ayub was on an alternate strategy early on. We've just switched to, this is Mohammed bin Ismail, Turkish driver, running in 6th position. Very strong debut performance from him. He wasn't on leader pace. Not many drivers are, for that matter. Not on leader pace. in practice or in qualifying, but he has kept the car between the walls, which is so easy to not do around here. And now he's running a very respectable 6th position. Santusaro will certainly catch him in a few laps, running much quicker pace. But whereas several drivers, 4 drivers already, have succumbed to attrition here on the streets of South City, Mohammed Ben Ismail, very strong debut performance from him, still running around in 6th. If drivers ahead of him should fall by the wayside, maybe on for a top 5 as long as he can remain safe and consistent.
Yeah, it's the main thing about these circuits. It doesn't matter if you've got that 1 lap pace, because in the immortal words of Will Buxton, to finish first, you first have to finish first. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, it was something like that. It was Murray Walker, you dingus. And he's not finishing first, but he certainly could be on for 6th. To finish 6th first, you must finish... pregnant pause.
I was going for the more cursed version that Will Buxton gave in one of the Drive to Survive seasons, which was along the lines of, to finish, you first have to finish.
That sounded more like the famous George W. Bush quotation. A little bit of American spice here for our viewers. Fool me once, and I won't finish the rest of the quotation. Rafael Costa, we'll get back to business here. Rafael Costa on the brakes, using the rear of the car to turn in. Looked like it nearly got away from him there, but collects the car before he goes out to the barriers. Ayub El-Anouni all the way out to that Armco. Dangerous, easy to upset the car if you touch it, especially if you go a little bit wide and into in that juke, that punt, not sure what we call it, there where the road intersects in front of the ramps. Ayub just missing the barrier. Very precise here. These drivers at the front they're so close to the barriers to open up the circuit, carry as much speed as they possibly can. Everyone inch perfect, where it matters somewhat less than it did at West Hill International Reverse, but still matters here to be as quick as possible. Todd Gonzalez had reservations about starting this race. Felt that he was going to be a hazard. Got reassurances from several drivers and one of the commentators in the lead up to the race. Running in 8th. There you go, Tom. To finish 8th, first you must be on a circuit to cross the line in 8th position. He had a great debut performance a week ago and looking strong today as well.
So, Travis, just quickly as well, Zdravko Duponiak has just done his first pit stop of the race. 14 laps before you reckon the R3s and sort of the fuel would go. What do you think about that one, Travis?
I can only assume that he picked up enough damage that he felt it was slowing him down, because I cannot myself think of another reason why you would stop so early. The R3s will easily go a full stint. Again, we mentioned earlier that they should be able to go 2 full stints if you take care of them. Yeah, I have no guesses as to why Zdravko may have stopped. We usually get a word from him at the end of the race. The car snaking around. Not sure what happened there. He was way off the racing line, and now he's got Todd Gonzalez right there. That was not Todd Gonzalez. I think that may have been, that was a white car behind him. They may have been Ismail. Yeah, I think judging by how he came through that sweeping bend before, there's that 3rd gear corner where you go downhill into the chicane. It was Gonzalez. The glare on the car made it look white. Todd Gonzalez looks like he is catching Zdravko Duponiak. So, yeah, the way the car behaved through there, that's not a place where you would expect the car to behave in a strange way. It's a pretty easy sweeping corner that you set up to then dab the brakes before you go down the hill. So, yeah, I wonder if something's wrong with the car, and that's why he stopped.
Yeah, well, he did have the whole rear end sort of smashed in earlier on, thanks to one of the other drivers in that 4-car battle. It was for P3 at the time. So I think maybe he just had enough of that and got fed up with it. Done a bit of calculation in his head maybe, and gone, right, do a 35 or so lap stint now on R3s. We'll put him to lap 50 something, and then he just needs to do another 15-20 laps in running the R4s, maybe, is where he's thinking.
Yeah, perhaps. He definitely repaired damage when he came in. I am looking at a squeaky clean new suspension setup on this car. That's Costa going through Gonzalez. Gonzalez jumping out of the way. That will mean Rafael Costa is catching Zdravko Duponiak hand over fist. So here's another mid-race prediction, Tom. I wonder if Zdravko will try to make R2s work at the end for pace. So the longevity of the tire is about right for doing a slightly less than full race stint at the end, if he feels like he can make them work and use the R2s for pace, as we watch Ayub El-Anouni go past Tom Gonzalez. That is now Ayub El-Anouni a lap ahead of Tom Gonzalez on the brakes and into turn one. Yeah, I think Stravko now, my guess is that he's trying to do something radically different from everyone else to try to save his race.
Yeah, I don't think the R2 would be the right strategy for that, though, Travis. I know what you're saying, but
yeah, I agree. I don't think so.
It overheats, it sets on fire, and then you're driving on jelly, and it's not going to be the strategy. I think he might try it with the R4 because it doesn't come with the same risk that the R2 does. Yes, it's slower at the start, but I think the overall pace it holds over a stint is quicker. So I think that might be what he decides to do, but whether he's got it's what he's going for is going to be the one to do.
Yeah, so I think you're on to something there, Tom. So one thing I had forgotten, and I asked a clarifying question and got an answer. You can change tire pressures. You make setup changes when you make a pit stop. So I think if he makes a pressure adjustment and takes R4s to try to tune it to get as much heat in as he possibly can and to do a low fuel run for his final stint on an alternate tire, I think that's his play. He's had to completely change his race strategy on account of the boshing he took from his competitors in the opening laps, and now the short R4 low fuel stint is seems like the best play for him. Pally Piltakonga's perilously close to the barriers, but avoids colliding with them. As we look once again to Gabor, now 1/3 of the way through the race, or almost 1/3 of the way through the race. He will be when he crosses the line to start lap 26. Looks completely unfazed by the attrition happening around him. In clean air for the entire race. Nothing bothering this man. He's got his head down, running very quick laps, putting on the Gabor show, as Tom likes to call it. Up
Stravko
over
now
the curves.
Stravko just letting on Costa on through as he's now put a lap on him. As Costa's now dived into the pit, so I think your 35 lap prediction for a fuel stint might be a little bit off, as I'm not sure why else Costa would be diving into the pits at this point anyway. So, and with almost a checklist of fastest laps, it feels like that Gabor has been doing. I wonder if Gabor's getting to the end of his fuel as well.
So I suspect I did a full race stint last night on R3s. 100% fuel did carry me 35 laps, but I wonder if the better strategy is to shorten it a little bit and then even out the stints a little. Or, I mean, it could be that some of these drivers feel like it's quicker to just do 3 even stints instead of a 2 long ones, 2 full stints on R3s and then a short one on an alternate tire. Here, looking at Gabor once again, we'll remind everyone we have this new broadcast integration. You can see that Gabor has Sidus Gabor there and the Twitch logo above his name board. Our subscribers have their Twitch handles over their name board. Stravko Nepomniac getting out of the way of AU. And if you see a red dot over that Twitch handle, that means that driver is live on Twitch. So Gabor, not live on Twitch at the moment. He was earlier. But look for those. Our subscribers, you'll see that name. And then if you see the red dot, that's a subscriber in the race who is streaming. So in the future, make sure you look for those. Ismail into pit lane now. Great shot of the underside of the overpass. Now back on the rear of Ismail's car. Slowed down to pit lane speed. Very faithfully abiding the rules. Misses a box, so he's just gets into the box. Tom, I thought he missed it, but he is just enough inside it that he's taking service and repairs. We saw the front of that car looking much nicer after he came to a stop.
So Gabor now, without doing his first pit stop, is right behind Santusara, and Santusara starts getting some blue flag waving action at him. So I wonder if this means Gabor almost certainly has to be pitting in the next couple of laps. His pace is it's typical Gabor sort of stuff, which doesn't say much, but because of how consistently quick it is, it suggests to me that he probably is right at the end of his pit stop area now, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does. But he's staying out again, so he's going to get the tow from Santusara all the way down the back straight now, and might even come flying on past into turn 1. or if Sarah's going to lift off, going to have to lift off and let him through. Someone's coming out the pits. Ishmael, he's come across before the end of the white line there, so that's almost certainly going to be a drive-through penalty. Not followed the pit exit procedure at all there, so that's not going to go well, and I think you're probably going to catch the eye of the officials with that move.
It's tricky to stay clear of that line because, again, it's most of these corners around the circuit are unsighted. The barriers obscure your line of sight through the corner, and that is a very high-speed bend using the downforce of the car to get around the corner. And coming out of pit lane, it's difficult to see where to place the car to carry full throttle speed out of the pits, and then also stay clear of that line. So very easy mistake to make. He will regardless take a bit of scrutiny from the officials, because whether it was an honest mistake or not, he did break the rules, so he will be hearing from them. And we watch Gabor into the final corner once again, up and over the curb to hook the car around. You don't want to get too much onto that curb because he can upset the rear, but he takes just enough to help the car turn, puts the power down, up the hill, over the start-finish line one more time. I think, Tom, he's got another 5 laps in it. It looks to me like he is going full fuel load, though he does have a bit of latitude with his strategy owing to the enormous gap he has over second place Ayub El-Anouni. Rafael Costa fallen back to 44 seconds off the lead after his pit stop. And then only Pauli Peltogongas, the remaining car on the lead lap. Sentusara should come back onto the lead lap after Gabor stops, but Gabor has been lapping so much more quickly than him. We thought early on that Sentusara's strategy may come back to him, but now looking like typical Gabor domination.
Yeah, I think Gabor and Ayub are the only two who haven't pitted yet, so I think it's making Gabor's lead look a bit bigger than it actually is. I think he's this is still going to sound quite ridiculous. I think his lead is realistically only something in the region of about 15-20 seconds there. As we see the drive-through penalty coming up for crossing the pit blend line there for Mohammed bin Ismail. There we go. As we saw with the 2 cars coming up behind him, dived across the white line, and as expected, the drive-through penalty has been awarded to him.
Gabor crosses the line one more time, so he will begin lap 30 as we watch Rafael Costa. Strong start from this driver. Coming through this sweeping bend now, up on the curb, open the corner up as much as possible. You stay wide of the barrier there so that you can jab the brakes in a straight line to pitch the car over that downhill third gear right-hander. Very smooth through here, using the front end of the car to get around these corners. Some drivers, Gabor notably, uses the rear of the car, gets on the power to move the rear of the car around to help rotate, but Rafael Costa using a lot of the front end of this car to hook around. Ooh, a little bit wide of the curbing there, easy to wash out, and then really plow the front end out to the curbing on the exit of that corner. Now he comes up and over the train tracks to start another lap. This will be the beginning of lap 30 for Rafael Costa. Strong performance for him today. We watch him snake through the barriers, on the brakes, down to turn 1. Looks like the front end of this car may not be working as well as he likes, which is it's going to damage his hopes for, well, I don't think it was anywhere near a P1 finish, but that is not helping his campaign for a podium.
Travis, you normally come at me with all sorts, asking for wild predictions, so I'm going to give you a few laps to sort of decide.
Unprompted prediction. This is exciting.
I'm going to give you a few laps to sort of decide on this one. At lap 37, who do you think is going to be our top 5 at the end of the race? You've got till lap 37 to answer it, so no pressure for it right now, but I want to know what you think we're going to get at the end of that.
On lap 37, I will say Gabor, Santusara. No, Gabor, Pauli, Santusara, then Ayub and Rafael Costa. No. I got that complete. You know what? I should have kept my mouth shut and just taken your offer of waiting till lap 37. I'll have a clearer picture on lap 36 after the remaining drivers have stopped. One of those drivers who needs to stop is Gabor in the lead as we watch Ayub come up the hill now through this sweeping bend. Ayub also needs to stop, has not yet taken a stop. There you can see to the right of the drivers' names on the timing tower. 3 drivers yet to stop. Gabor one of them, Ayub another, and Todd Gonzalez running a very long first stint, a respectable 7th position. Mohammed bin Ishmael was running in 6th, fell down the order after pit stop. We expect him to come back up again. But Todd Gonzalez, great day from him. Great debut performance on round 1 a week ago as Gabor sets the fastest lap of the race at a 14.7. Tom, he is very near the end of his fuel load now, running qualifying pace for some of these drivers. We should see him in shortly, running very, very quickly to the end of his first stint.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, Travis, but I have a feeling Gabor quite likes it here, quite enjoys this circuit.
I will let you, well, this isn't a secret to you, but it'll be, it is a secret. It will be a secret no longer in a few moments to our viewers. Everyone slept in before the race today, so there was some concern about getting a full grid, which we finally had. Had 14 drivers take the start of this race, but I was making desperate appeals to Jonathan Palmer to fill out the grid if we ended up short with drivers today, because this track, this combination is so much fun. I found it to be easier. You could be, believe it or not, slightly larger margin for error around here, partly owing to the barriers just kind of keeping you honest everywhere around the circuit. But West Hill is so fast, and the quickest way around the circuit is in such a narrow line where you have to be inch perfect out to the grass, where if you touch the grass, your race is over. Here, you might touch a barrier if you're off by an inch or two. But you are so committed through some of these corners. There are so many undulations, like this corner here, the compression as we watch Gabor go through. The car compresses, there's so much grip at the bottom of the hill, and then you go up and over. The car gets very light in that third gear right-hander, and you have to use the rear of the car to kind of change the attitude before you get on the brakes for that second gear left-hander and down to the hairpin. You have to be so precise. There's so many different types of corners. Every corner on this circuit is different. It's so much fun that I really wanted to run today. Unfortunately for me, fortunately for all our viewers and for these drivers who are out there today, great grid turned up. Nice competition out there on circuit today. And Gabor, I think Gabor would have embarrassed me regardless. And you all would have had to listen to Pete instead of me. God forbid. As we watch Gabor come into pit lane, take him across the line, Tom.
Yeah, here we go. In on lap 33, coming into the pit lane. Needs to make sure he doesn't mess up his pit entry. Highly important. There we go. Just straight in there. Fine. Finds his pit box and gets well parked there. Needs to just get it on the way out. Hearing an eye is just a fuel-only stop for Gabor, which, as Travis expected, these tyres will just about do a double stint. Maybe doing the lap 33 pit stop is put him to lap 66, then maybe jump onto a set of R3s, R2s or R4s, at the end, and get there. And there we go. Message from race control saying, basically, Travis, you were never racing. They didn't want you.
I call that unprofessional. The banter in the commentary box has no place in race control messages. I'm calling this disrepute of the pretend sport of Formula One. Gabor underway again. I think, Tom, these tires will easily make a second stint. The test that I did last night, my tires were in far worse condition. I did not take as good a care of them as Gabor has. I had a few big slides and a bit of wheel spin here or there. Gabor has not put a foot, or a wheel rather, wrong, and those tires look to me like they will easily make his second stint, and then he will have a short run at the end of the race on either R2s or R4s. We wait to see. Another 35 laps, what those will be. Ayub has inherited the lead of the race. On lap 36, the leader will be Gabor as Ayub comes into the pits. You bring him in, Tom, and I will doodle on my prediction.
Yeah, here we go then. Ayub coming in, getting the car slowed down for the line, all very important, making sure he doesn't pick up a pointless drive-through penalty as Gabor goes flying back on through to retake the race lead once again. Not going to be picking up that Grand Slam that Travis really well predicted, of course, but back comfortably in the lead. He's going to be probably about 25 seconds is going to be the gap by the time Ayub gets back out. If he still rejoins ahead of Costa, not quite sure where Costa is on track, but there we go. Safe exit by Ayub as well to avoid the white line and holding that second place. So we'll see shortly what the gap is for him and when it all updates. But Costa there very well slotted back into third place, and now just has the hunt for Ayub ahead, who's probably about 2 seconds at the road from him.
Ayub also choosing to double stint these tires, only fuel on his stop. So there we go. Gabor in the lead with Ayub about 16 seconds back. Rafael Costa in third, Pauli Peltokangas fourth, Sanctusara in fifth, and then we have Sanctusara's teammate Zdravko Toponiak 1 lap behind, bit off cycle from everyone else after a difficult opening to the race. He probably will not retain his championship lead today, but still a long way to go yet in this one, not even halfway through yet. A lot could happen to shake things up in Zdravko Toponiak's favor, though could easily go away from him even worse. We saw he was collected by 2 drivers in as many laps at the very start of the race. So Zdravko Toponiak, again, recovery drive for him today. Championship leader, but perhaps no longer. Rafael Costa there will cross the line to start his lap 36. Now back to Pauli Peltokangas in this very nice looking yellow, red, and white Sidus machine. Cool, very good looking paint job. The alternate red instead of the customary purple on Sidus. Pauli Peltokangas not here for round 1. Strong showing here today for round 2, helping deliver valuable points for the Sidus team. Gabor, will remind everyone, is a Team Sidus driver. Third in the championship standings, the team's championship standings, looking like they should come away from this round with a championship lead.
Yeah, putting in a big effort there. I will remind everybody, there it is, the driver of the day poll is live. If you guys go to simbroadcast.tv/DOTD and vote for your driver of the day, the person you think has been most entertaining, best driver, someone you've just really enjoyed watching, as there we go. Zdravko Toponiak has just dived into the pits for his second stop of the day, just 14 laps after he was in last time, so a little bit unusual. We'll have to sort of ask our people behind the scenes if they can just let us know what's going on when he dives into his pit box.
Tires were in good shape. He is repairing damage again, so I think it's Zdravko taking fuel, repaired damage. He will keep these tires on. I think Zdravko is just having a rough day. He didn't get as much practice as he would have liked, and I think he is just managing, as Todd Gonzalez has now come to a stop behind Zdravko Toponiak, so that'll be his first pit stop. He's gone a full 35 laps, tires, damage, fuel for Todd Gonzalez, so Todd does not think he will be able to make those R3s last another 35 laps. And he will be underway again shortly as we look once again to Gabor, the Gabor Show, the Gabor Clinic, Gabor University, holding class coming under the tunnel now, under the bridge now, rather. That is a tunnel that goes under a bridge. Across the line, start lap 38, and that will be halfway through the race.
So Travis, let's hear what your prediction for our top 5 is come the end. Now the pit stop cycle has sort of happened, and we have a rough estimate of how exactly where people are on terms of race pace.
Well, I don't think this is terribly difficult at this point because I could see the order at the end of lap 37 right in front of me. I don't think I called some of these correctly. I thought Sanctusara and Pauli Peltokangas would make up a lot more time, but they have been left behind by Gabor. Ayub and Rafael Costa have swapped positions from where they were earlier on in the race, so great strategy call and good driving by Ayub to take that lead. About 4.5 seconds right now, but Rafael Costa is catching him. So there you have it. Gabor, Ayub up from the start. Rafael Costa right where he was, started P3, running P3 right now. Pauli Peltokangas down a spot in fourth position. Sorry, Rafael Costa down a spot. He started second. Ayub up a few because Pauli Peltokangas started in P3. Sanctusara, Zdravko Toponiak's teammate there, rounding out the top 5. Igor Santos. We have not talked about Igor Santos running a respectable 6th. Expect this order to shuffle a little bit more as we see more pit stops in the next 10 or 20 laps. Following Lucas Rosa now, who's had a very quiet race there in 7th position. Everyone on for points today. 14 cars started, only 10 running right now. So all the points on offer will be handed out to all the drivers that we have on the racetrack right now. So the next round in 2 weeks' time, we'll see championship standings that feature every one of the drivers we see running out here right now.
Yeah, today, while it's quite it's a great opportunity for a lot of the drivers who normally fight a bit further back or midfield positions to really gain some valuable points against those who they'll be racing with further into the season to really give them the best championship opportunities they can. You see Gabor there just sliding his way on round pitch, still miles ahead of everyone else, but still absolutely pinpoint and absolutely on it as per normal with that Sebastian Vettel tribute helmet he's got running there. It's just, he doesn't need to be pushing as hard as he is, but this is Gabor we're talking about, and so of course he is.
Yeah, I think this is probably somewhat less fun if he's not pushing as hard as he is doing. Looking down on that Sebastian Vettel tribute helmet right now. Reminder about these new broadcast features we have. You can see Gabor's Citus Gabor Twitch handle there next to the Twitch icon. You'll see a red dot over that text if that driver is live. Subscribers have their names put up over their nameplates in the broadcast. So if you drive in these events, you want to see your Twitch handle in there. Do subscribe, and then everyone watching will know about your Twitch channel. Free advertising, courtesy of Sim Broadcast. Bring viewers, free in the sense that in that our viewers will see your channel, but you do have to subscribe in order to get your name on there, unless you use your Twitch Prime subscription.
Unless you use Twitch Prime, at which point it is free. Other than that, you do have to pay, but then once you paid, it is free.
Yes, exactly that. Thank you, Tom. Getting a little bit silly in the box today as the running has gotten strung out. Citus Gabor there in the lead, now hanging the rear of the car out and into the barriers. And we've got a race on our hands now. After the pit stop cycle, Rafael Costa is catching Ayub properly. That was a 4.5 second gap just a lap ago, maybe 2 laps ago, now down to 3. So Rafael Costa on it and setting quick laps, trying to catch Ayub and take this second step on the podium. First looked very safe with Gabor, but second, third, probably not fourth position, but second and third, the last steps on the podium, still yet to play for, only a little past halfway through this race. Rafael Costa catching Ayub El-Lanouni very quickly.
In fact, I think Costa... Oh my goodness. It's just a slight lag glitch there. Sorry, I was looking at one screen and got all sorts of confused and excited.
I don't blame you, because I also jumped.
Yeah, that really caught me out. But oh well, always the funs we have with these virtual simulations. Everything isn't always perfectly connected, but it's very good nonetheless. So one thing I've noticed as well is that when Costa had finished his pit stop cycle, he was 28 seconds behind Gabor. He's actually caught slightly on Gabor, not much at all, I must say, but which might suggest Gabor has backed off a little bit. But Costa is absolutely flying, and Ayub has just sort of lost a bit of time to him. The gap has closed by about 4 seconds since the pit cycle. So I do think Costa definitely has the pace in him to catch Ayub.
So I will confidently tell you that Gabor has not backed off the pace. He is still running laps as hard as he can. I can tell you this because he clattered the barrier very hard coming through the back part of the circuit. The medium speed third gear left-hander before you come around turns 12, 13, and 14 is the sweeping bend under the bridge. Hardly a turn, but Gabor is pushing, and he's done a little bit of damage to the car. The suspension, suspiciously in a rough shape. So he's been in the barriers a few times. The compression through turns 3 and 14 they put so much stress on the car that you do have to repair damage at some point during the race in order to make sure they don't break later on. But Gabor also sideways into the barriers a few times, so he could afford to back off. He has a 24, almost 25 second lead, but Gabor not backing off at all. Lucas Rosa on the brakes and onto the pit lane speed limiter. Into pit lane now. This will be his second stop, I believe. And I don't know yet. I don't believe he has changed compounds. It's kind of an early stop to switch compounds. We'll check on that. He is stationary as Gabor comes by to put him another lap down. Tires, damage, and fuel. He was one of the drivers who started on R2s. That's my mistake. I apologize for that. Thank you for the correction in my ear. So he has now done he switched compounds. He is good to go to the end of the race. This will be a long run on R3s for him to close out the race.
Yeah, he did have that slight issue earlier on where he had the drive-through I believe he had earlier, but after that, we'll have to see how things keep going. Of course, Costa and Ayub, the battle still getting closer, down to 2 seconds now, and only going to make it feel worse for Ayub as he sees this green machine closing him down in the background, and Costa, it's only going to spur him on as that car gets closer and closer in front of him. Meanwhile, Gabor is just enjoying, I would say, a Sunday drive, but it is a Sunday drive, but it's just not a slow one.
Yeah, while we were talking about these drivers, this battle for second position, I'm sorry to say that Mohammed bin Ismail has spectated. So he made a pit stop, came all the way into pit lane, and then drove straight into a pit box and joined the spectators, which is, I think, a shame for him because he was doing remarkably well. An excellent debut performance. He was running as high as 6th, but it is so easy. These drivers take it. It is fatiguing driving this car this hard around a circuit that is, again, I don't think as challenging as West Hill International Reverse, but still not easy. It is mentally taxing to do the same thing over and over again every lap, and then the mistakes add up. It can be a little bit demoralizing, but even so, I thought that was a strong, very nice performance from him on his debut. Sorry to say that he has gone. We're down to 9 drivers out on circuit. This one right here, the leader, has been pushing so hard. Tom, I wonder if he has made his own race here and decided to try to get as close as he can to the world record, just hot lapping out there in the lead, because he has been in the barriers over and over again as I've watched him go around while we pan around to other drivers on track.
I think the only thing is, I think he might have a dinner reservation slightly later, so he needs to get the race wrapped up and done with, so he's going as far as he can. But
that seems as likely an explanation as any other.
Yeah, as we jump back, watching the onboard camera, looking back now from Ayub's car back to Costa here, who is really closing the gap, hunting him down. Gap now to, I believe, less than a second there, so he's really going to start the big advantages now from this slipstream. He's going to get a huge toe now, all the way down the start finish straight, and then once again with that back straight a little bit after the end, keeping it tight and just trying to close in and hunt the gap down. Already doing 305 kilometers an hour as a peak down there before getting hard on the brakes by the blue, keeping the car with a good exit. A little bit hairy on the throttle there, didn't quite get the exit he wanted, gone a bit too early in, so he isn't going to be able to make a move now into turn 3-4 this time round, but is going to be there and definitely presenting a nice big green machine in the back of Ayub's mirrors.
Keep an eye on this fight because it is the closest one on circuit right now, and it is the fight for second place. Far behind, or far ahead of these two, Gabor has just gone past Zdravko Duponiak to put him a second lap down. So Zdravko, championship leader, and his main championship challenger has now gone through to put him 2 laps down. Speaking of Zdravko Duponiak and the Fragmaster team, his Fragmaster teammate Santu Sara has now stopped in pit lane. This will be his second stop. He went from R2s to R3s earlier, and he has spectated. Interesting turn of events there. I suspect he might be a little disappointed with his performance today, but I think he was still running pretty strong. A top 5 is nothing to sneeze at. Though he does promote his teammate. Valuable points for Zdravko Duponiak, who is not collecting nearly as many as he would like today. Santu Sara out of the race, back on board with Rafael Costa in the slipstream of Ayub El-Anouni. Ayub not going to force the issue, leaves plenty of room on the inside, and Rafael Costa easily into second position. Ayub felt like he couldn't. He couldn't fight with Rafael Costa and just let the position go. Hearing someone went and asked about Santu Sara. Santu Sara did not intend to spectate. It's a DNF because he accidentally turned his engine off. He fat-fingered the I key on his keyboard. And as you know, the BF1 does not have an onboard starter. If you cut the ignition, it is race over. So Santu Sara, crucial mistake, cuts the power of the BMW V8 in the rear of that machine, and just like that, race over. Cannot get refired. The pit lane is flat. You can't even roll start the car you can't bump start it by putting it in gear. End of his race, an ignominious end, accidentally hitting I and quitting about 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah, it's never the result anyone wants to see happen. It's always unpleasant, and these little things happen. You have these errors in real life, and these errors do also happen in sim racing. At the end of the day, these people are only human, and they can only do their very best. So unfortunate for Santusara there. He was in a very strong position and looking to gain some valuable points for Fragmaster in the championship there, which is always going to hinder them. But as you say, Zdravko Toponiak now promoted up to that 5th place position, and definitely closing that gap again. Well, the deficit he's going to lose to Gabor is coming down a bit with every issue that happens with the drivers ahead of him.
And as we look at the standings, Gabor coming across now to start lap 48. The leaders, the top 4 anyway, not separated too far. Gabor does have, that is the better part of a pit stop lead over Rafael Costa, who is trailing, and the gap is growing. Gabor, Rafael Costa driving away from Ayub El-Anouni about a few tenths of a lap anyway. He made that pass 2 laps ago, and that is now a 1.5 second gap. Pali Peltakagas, Botsi not too far behind, 35 seconds off, and then a full 2 laps back to Zdravko Toponiak. So odd gaps here today. Attrition playing a big role. 6 drivers are out of the race. We look down now, this great helicopter shot of Gabor, watching him thread the needle between the barriers here, just missing the barrier there on the right. Easy on the power through that second right-hander. He is so smooth. You can see how well the car is working, how precise Gabor is. A little bit wide of the barrier, wide for Gabor anyway. He was still only about 15 centimeters off it. Hooks the car over the curb, all the way out over the curbing, rear of the car, just getting into the traction control as he goes up through the gears, down the hill, compression at the bottom, over the curbs through this. Once again, we can't think of a better term for it. We'll take suggestions. Chicane before the start-finish line, and off he goes to start lap 49. So precise, so smooth. The Gabor show once again, and with fewer cars to spin in the way and perhaps cause a safety car, this race looking very secure for Gabor.
Yeah, he's about half a lap or so, 40. I think it's about 30 seconds is the margin. Now he's pulled away. He's just absolutely just cruising on around the corners and taking less risk, I think, in some places and sort of extending in others. And at the end of the day, he doesn't have to take risks anymore. He's got just under 26 seconds as a lead to do just about 26 laps. So he can afford to lose a second lap back to Costa and still win the race. In fact, he could lose half a second lap back to Costa and still win the race. And Costa's got to have an absolutely fantastic, fully on it every single lap now for the rest. And personally, I'm going to put my money on Gabor. It's going to be a close one. But yeah, it's risky bet, Tom.
Yeah. I see you are a gambling man.
I know. I've always picked the outlier. Always pick that one.
So I was, in the background, Pauli Peltakagas, who just touches that barrier when we pick him up, is now catching Ayub. So Pauli on good pace. Ayub going backward from Rafael Costa. Rafael Costa on the previous lap had closed the gap to Gabor slightly, so I got a little bit exciting while I was listening to Tom talking about his very risky bets. That gap up to 26.2 again. So Rafael Costa not making any consistent headway on Gabor, but getting away from Ayub, who is losing ground to Pauli Peltakagas. Botsi navigates these bends before he jumps on the brakes for what I will call, it's turn 2 on the map, but I'm going to call it turn 1 because it's the first proper corner. Up through the gears onto the motorway. Both of these drivers on the same strategy now. Everyone running R3s. We do expect Gabor at the end of the race to change compounds. Zdravko Toponiak will also need to change compounds at the end of the race. I believe we'll need to do a review. I believe most everyone else has actually switched compounds. If anyone has not, I think Todd Gonzalez did also switch compounds. He's running a fairly long, should be 32, 33 lap stint to end his race. May end up being about 30 if he loses another lap or two to Zdravko Toponiak, which seems plausible because Todd, though he is He's running a very respectable campaign. A good first showing a week ago, and now running 8th today after other drivers are dropping around him. He is nowhere near Gabor's pace, so his race may be shortened, courtesy of Gabor going by him for a 4th, perhaps a 5th time. And there we go, looking down on this nice-looking British racing green machine. Could also call this, I think this is a Brazilian green. Tom Gonzalez, a Brazilian driver, up through the city streets now. And though, again, not as quick as Gabor, very precise, very smooth. We can see him like easy on the brakes, the rear of the car well under control, fairly close to the barriers. That corner, we could forgive him for not being that close to the racing line because it's tricky to carry speed through there. You want to stay tight, but here, nice and tight to the barrier on the entry, an inch away from it, plenty of respect from the barrier on the right. Todd Gonzalez, great effort from him in his inaugural BF1 campaign. And here we go, off and running down the hill. We'll have driver of the day poll up on your screen in just a second. There's the URL, simbroadcast.tv/DOTD. We will have the results before too long, before the conclusion of this race. Browse there, simbroadcast.tv, DOTD. The in-progress results we'll have up in just a moment. Results at the end of the final results at the end of the race. Apologize for misspeaking there a moment ago. Want to clarify that for everyone. And right now, Tom, sounds like your favorite is Gabor. I'm going to go Rafael Costa. Rafael Costa is my driver of the day. He has been so strong and so consistent. Pete has suggested in my ear that I go stuff the ballot box. But I think I'm going to say that's off limits for the commentators. That's cheating because we could declare anyone as our favorite at any time, and everyone has to listen to us say it. Rafael Costa, great performance from him today. Very strong in second position. Caught Ayub El-Nanouni a few laps ago and is now driven away. That's a 5-second gap. So good show from him. But Tom, now that I've rambled on enough about it, you can declare whether Gabor is in fact your driver of the day, or if you have a different selection.
I don't really have a driver of the day yet. We got quite excited with awarding it, basically giving it to Gabor about halfway through the race last week, just for him to become very friendly with the barrier. So while it was a very strong start for Gabor, he had a bit of a messy finish. So I think realistically, driver of the day, we'll have to. I'll decide mine on the last sort of 5 laps as we see. We see Costa now diving into the pits for his second or third stop. I think it is second stop because he first pitted lap 22, I think he did. And then
he went long on R4s.
Oh, there we go. Peltocongas in behind him as well. Costa revving the limits. There you go. Oh, fuel only and I think both were fuel only, a little damage. Oh, Costa changed onto his R4s to now do 23 laps to the end on R4s with 1 position to make up ahead.
Yeah, so Pally Peltocongas has jumped Rafael Costa in pit lane. Pally's already done his compulsory compound change. Rafael Costa now just making the switch. So I would like to review my driver of the day selection because Pally Peltocongas has pulled a strategy blinder going along on the R4s at the start, and now he will assuredly drive away from Rafael Costa, who is now on the alternate tire going along to the end of the race. It'll be 21 laps on R4s, though Pally Peltocongas made that work really well and had good pace in them when the fuel came off, so maybe this is not yet over.
No, Travis, I'm going to suggest every time you make an initial prediction...
Yeah, I give up. You're great at these predictions, and clearly I am not, so I quit. It's over.
For anyone who missed it earlier, let's do a quick rundown on Travis's prediction. First prediction was Gabor getting a grand slam after Susara led the first 5 laps of the race. And then
I won't stand for this.
His next prediction was a top 5, which ended up with Santusara retiring and ruining that position.
Here, I have one more prediction. And that is, I said earlier in the race that we should get a graphic for Tom's prediction segment, and now I think mine have been so bad, and our production team in the background will feel so inspired to keep my predictions off the air that we will make this an official segment with you, with graphics and animations and everything. because I will bow to this, I have been terrible at it. Tom makes entertaining and plausible predictions, and mine are just boldy garbage. So I quit. I won't do it again. Tom, save us and predict something. Maybe something about this gentleman right here, Pally Peltigangas, who is driving away from Rafael Costa.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he's probably a safe bet for a second place finish. He's only 26 seconds behind Ayub, and Ayub still has to do his next. He'll have one final pit stop to do before getting to the end of the race. So he's in a good position to jump ahead of Ayub, and I think Ayub also started on the R3s as well, so he's going to have to do another stop. There we go. We see Ayub and Gabor both got a pit stop to do with a tyre change as well. So Peltigangas in a very strong position to strike out for a second position there. And I think we're going to have a close fight at the end with Costa and Ayub. Ayub just trying to make as much out of those R3 tyres as possible and try and see if he can build a margin back again on Costa behind.
So 20 laps remaining in this race. I will happily agree with everything that Tom has just said. As we look down, Pally Peltigangas jabbing the brakes. It's hard to tell from that overhead shot, but you could see just how hard he was on the brakes and how briefly to slow the car down for that off camber, that third gear uphill cresting corner. Really great shot to see how the car works there. Wide entry here, down to the barrier on that third gear downhill corner. So many interesting corners going this direction around South City. The weight of the car getting light up over the humps and undulations in the road, as Gabor is now coming through the same part of the circuit that we just saw Pally Peltigangas negotiate. Gabor very smoothly through here. About 14 laps, we guess, until Gabor's final stop. He will be well clear of Pally Peltigangas in second position, though we saw 1 week ago. Let's stir the pot, Tom. One little mistake can make all the difference. Gabor is fully in command of this race. When he stops, all other things being equal, he will easily come out ahead of Pally Peltigangas. But should he touch a barrier, come together with a back marker, accidentally hit the control for engine ignition, could all come undone for him. Pally Peltigangas will be in a strong second place, assuming he does not also make any mistakes himself once Ayub pits. But Gabor in command, 18 laps remaining in this race. Comes down the motorway for the 57th time.
Yeah, as you said, there's a lot that go on. I think there's less chance for a driver to have a big crash and retire at this point, simply due to just there's the bigger spread, and when you get hit into the barrier, it's probably going to do a bit more damage than if you've just made a little mistake, because at that point you've got the car, you can try and slow it down as much as possible, whereas where we were last week, you just, while pushing, dip a tyre and then you're flying off into the barrier and having huge amounts of damage. So as we see there, driver of the day poll, Gabor currently leading the way with, I'm going to assume is he's on 50% of the votes. Trying to do a quick bit of mental maths in my head to guess how many, but just hearing it, there's been more votes than that, but currently from the data we have there, Gabor leading the way on 50%, Costa on 25%, and then Stravko, Ayub and Gabriel Lara all equal on 8.3%, and we'll have that updated graphic come through soon, and as soon as we've got that, we'll get you a better idea of what's going on.
Yes, indeed. And we watch this man come up and onto the motorway once again. He is driving away from the drivers behind him. Here's the second place driver, Ayub El-Nanouni. We haven't watched him a whole lot. He's had a few good fights on circuit with Rafael Costa. For the most part, we have focused on Gabor in the lead. But now Ayub promoted to second after Rafael Costa stopped. Rafael Costa was ahead of Ayub on track a little while ago. Here's Pally Peltigangas' third step on the podium, P3 as it runs right now. We expect, assuming there are no mistakes, no safety cars, that he will take the second step on the podium. Rafael Costa in second position right now in the driver of the day poll, fourth on track. Also expect him to make a strong finish to this race. Because Ayub does have yet to stop. As Stravko, big slide. Tom, this car, I think it's clear right there, because if you coast into that corner, it's easy if you carry too much speed in for the rear of the car to get away. But not typically a place you would see a really big slide, especially at this stage in the race. Stravko really struggling with this car. I think it simply does not agree with him.
Yeah, I was watching Stravko a little bit earlier on. It just seems to look like he's a bit fed up and done with the circuit. It doesn't look like the him we're used to. I know he hasn't been able to do the amount of practice he normally is able to do for this event. So I don't know whether that probably plays into it a little bit. So we have that to take into contention with. But he's just trying to get it to the end now and just get those points that he can.
Looking at Lucas Rosa now because Gabor is about to catch him. We see Gabor in the background right there. Lucas Rosa nice and smoothly down the hill. Would expect him to jump out of the way right about here. Nicely done by Lucas Rosa. Easily dispatched by Gabor. Off they go. I doubt Gabor lost any time there. If he did, here we go. More crazy predictions. He could make it up in the final 2 corners of the circuit, Tom, because he is so inspired and so talented on the power, and off he goes. He'll come under the bridge and start lap 60 in just a moment. It'll be 15 laps remaining, 80% distance completed now. Off he goes, growing that gap to Ayub. It's now up to 33.7 seconds. Gabor now has a full pit stop in hand over Ayub.
Yeah, also apologies to everyone who is struggling to work out Travis's maths there. 80% distance is at lap 60, not 50. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong driver. Ignore me.
Yeah. How the tables have turned, Tom.
I forgot LFS displays the lap you're on, not the lap the leader is on. So that's hold my hand up for that one.
So I have to assume then that you were following either Lucas Rosa or Todd Gonzalez. Call attention to Todd Gonzalez there in 8th position. Attrition helping him up to 8th, but once again, great debut by him a week ago, running strongly today. Should be an inspiration for other drivers who are thinking about joining this series, aren't sure about the car, how difficult it is to drive. It certainly isn't easy, but if you put in a little bit of time and you're just careful, you can get a strong result. Great show from Todd Gonzalez, well done to him. Still running there in 8th position. Looking at Pauli Peltokangas, putting the power down now, up the hill. Negotiates the ramp onto the motorway once again. I've been very faithfully saying motorway, Tom, because I think to most of the audience that's what they would call it. I have to stop myself every time because I would call it a highway here or perhaps a freeway.
Well, thank you for calling it its correct name, Travis. We do very much appreciate you dropping the Americanisms and bringing the English language back into its forefront.
I'm gonna lobby to have Pete in the box with me now. I don't feel like this is a productive relationship. You've been so horribly rude to me today. As we watch, great shot right next to the ground of Pauli Peltokangas coming through these corners. This one's tricky. He's almost into the barrier. It's so tricky to get through that corner because you don't have full downforce there. It's a medium speed corner. And the rear of the car wants to come around when you turn in, and then it wants to plow a little bit to the exit if you dab the brakes too late. But these drivers getting through there very nicely. Pauli Peltokangas comes over the railroad tracks. That is a huge bump in some cars. You go over it so quickly that you don't really notice it in the BF1. Now Pauli is off and running in pursuit of Ayub. We expect, once again, that he will pass Ayub, and I think, Tom, we should see Ayub in fairly soon.
Yeah, I'd predict to see Ayub and Gabor coming in shortly. You know, Gabor pitted lap 33, so my maths, he's going to have to pit somewhere in the next 6 laps at most if he wants to be able to make it. And Ayub, I can't remember what lap Ayub pitted on, if I'm honest. But I would say definitely somewhere in the next 8 laps, Ayub's going to have to come into the pits anyway.
Indeed, here we go, catching up to a back marker. Couldn't see which one it was, just flashed by in the background. Ayub crosses the line now. This bend is so hard to carry full speed through. There's plenty of downforce on the car that if you miss the entry, then you can easily negotiate it. This is Igor Santos, is the back marker ahead of Ayub now, looking back over his rear wing. Yeah, that fast left-hand bend after the start-finish line is tricky because you can just drive the car around the corner if you miss the entry, but the fastest way through there is to turn in close to where the pit exit is. But again, every corner on this track is blind to some extent. so it's really easy to miss it and lose a lot of time. Driver of the day, the results as they run. That pole will close near the end of the race. Gabor has extended his lead a little bit. It's now 53.8% for Gabor. Rafael Costa down to 23%, but still comfortably in second. And that looks like equal votes for the remainder of the top five. Dravica and Deponiak tied for third there with the other two drivers, Pauli Peltokangas, and I missed the third one. My apologies. Igor Santos will want to jump out of the way of Ayub in just a moment. And here we go. Ayub passes the pit entrance, choosing not to come in. He will need to do so soon. Crosses the line to start his 63rd lap of the race.
Yeah, if my maths is correct, I believe Ayub's got 5 or 6 laps of fuel left if he fully brimmed the tank. So he's got a little bit more leeway to go there. On a little note on the side as well, Gabor currently coming on round to the back of Costa. So right there to lap all the way up to 4th place. Of course, Costa has made his final stop where Gabor hasn't. So Costa isn't going to be ending the race a lap down unless he manages to make some sort of wonderful error. But there we go, just moving out the way of Gabor very sensibly. Just should tuck in behind his slipstream and just let him pull him along for as long as he can keep in contact with him, and that will help close the gap to Peltokangas and Ayub ahead.
So Tom, I don't think Rafael Costa, unless he picks up the pace a ton in the remaining 11 and a half laps, I don't think he's close enough to catch Ayub. That is a 23. That's on nearly a 40-second gap to Ayub, so it's pretty close. It is, the pit lane isn't very long, but the entry is kind of awkward. You go up onto the highway overpass, and then you negotiate a kind of tight right-hand corner in between tight barriers, and then there's a bit of a kink before you jump on the brakes and put on the pit lane speed limiter. And then the lane is short. It's just the entry is long and awkward. So yeah, it depends on, he wants to get in and out as quickly as he can, and then carefully, obviously no mistakes. He doesn't want to go too fast. He doesn't want to miss a pit box. But I think 40 seconds is pretty close, but I feel like he'll be safe.
Yeah, it just depends if he's got any major damage. I doubt he does, and I think if it does have damage, he should be able to nurse it and would be okay to lose sort of a quarter of a second a lap sort of position, and just stick with sort of fuel and tyres, and only need to do something in the region of 5 to 10 laps of fuel anyway, which shouldn't take too long to get all that sorted and get going.
Ooh, Tom, I'm going to do it again. I swore this off, but I'm going to make a prediction. Gabor is, Pete has criticism in my ear, but I'll just disregard that. I didn't last long, but I've decided to resume the prediction game. Gabor's tires are quickly turning stone cold, and the right rear on his machine is perilously thin. So he has to come in the next lap or two, and if he doesn't, I think Gabor, he's so far ahead, I don't think he has to play it this closely, but he has gone to the very finest margins on his tires.
Yeah, playing the danger game here in my ear as well. He has worse tyres than an Ubon, so he's surely, yes, he's miles ahead, and he just doesn't need the risk. He's got 40 seconds back to Ayub. He's got a minute back, and there we go. He into the pit lane now, comes across the track, dives into the pit lane. I think he must have been hearing you, Travis, and listened to your predictions of needs to pit, because there we go. Plays it very safe, puts the speed limiter on way before, straight into the first pit box, and there he is. And I'm sure we're going to see tyres and fuel here in Mehlinger. Tyres and fuel, no damage. So this should give us a great sort of indication of how close it's going to be with Ayub coming through, because if he's able to get close to him, we'll be able to see whether that sort of gap is going to be close enough for Costa's sort of challenge. And there we go, he's coming out again, out of the pit lane, needs to keep to the right of the white line, and there we go, he's stayed fine and he's held the lead. So with that being said, I do believe Ayub should hold on to third place at the end of the pit cycle.
Ayub, who is in pit lane now and about to come to a stop in a box near the end of pit lane. Drivers typically jump into boxes early. We've seen that Ayub tends to prefer something further down the lane. Tires and fuel for Ayub onto R4s. Gabor did the same. Gabor is going to run 10 laps on R4s. So Gabor, as Tom said, easily out of the pits in the lead, and now he can well and truly afford to coast to the end because he has a 37-second lead, almost 38-second lead on Pauly Peltokangas. Gabor fully in command, no challenge at all from behind. Though we do have a race on circuit between Pauly Peltokangas and Ayub El-Anouni. Ayub El-Anouni, who is on fresh R4s, won't be as quick as the R3s on Pauly's car. Pauly, a clear margin there over Ayub. It was 1 second, and I think that was just as Ayub was coming across the timing line. So now 5 seconds for Ayub to make up, though Pauly is at the very end of his stint. Those tires will not be working optimally, whereas Ayub, though the R4s are not ideal, has plenty of tread on them.
Yeah, it's. I think it has the potential, but I don't think it's going to be really a challenge for Peltokangas. He just needs to keep going, and it's one of those. He's got more tires, so if he wants to save, he's got faster tires. Sorry, I should say. So if he does want to save a little bit of time, be a little bit more cautious, he does have that leeway around. So then use the tire if Ayub's able to get close to him. As I've just seen on my other screen, Santos had a horrible accident. Just sort of around turn 6 area, so hopefully no one's coming up behind him there and able to get going. He dropped the rear, span it into the wall, biffed it off the front and the back, but managed to get going again without any major drama.
Yeah, those kind of mistakes can so easily produce drama. Good that he did that well away from any of the other drivers on circuit. Zdravko Duponiak looking much more comfortable through here now. The last time we watched him come through these corners, the rear of the car was going everywhere but where he wanted it to. On the brakes, over the curb, run the car out on the exit. A pretty ginger exit, not using all of the road. We've talked about him a few times today. Clearly not happy with this car, just managing the race the best he can. He's 2 laps behind Gabor, and he still needs to do his final pit stop. So he's run long on R3s, and he's made, Tom, I believe he's made 2 stops, but he hasn't changed compounds. So he will need to come in once again and switch either to R2s or R4s with 7. Well, he's 2 laps down, so with 5 laps left in the race for him, he could conceivably go on to R2s and make those run to the finish pretty easily.
Yeah, I think that's the strategy he's got to do. I know Santos, I believe, on the same lap as him, just about 10 seconds further back. So interesting to see. I can't remember if Santos has pitted, changed tyres. I know of course he's pitted, but just hearing here as well, he has changed tyres. So there we go. Santos is in a very good position here to strike out and go for that 5th place position. He just needs to get a little bit tidier. I'm seeing a lot of very, very ragged driving here from him. So just tidy that up a bit and he should be in a good position to strike out Zdravko, who is just sort of losing hand over fist to Santos at this point.
So I've noticed something interesting. I don't know that this is consequential, but it is interesting. Pauly Peltokangas has run with a curious setup. I assume he's just dumped the pressures out of his tires, because when I look at the wear pattern, they're not much, but somewhat obviously thinner in the middle. So he still has plenty of temperature. There's plenty of life left in the tires to finish the race. But he's run. I realized I got the pressures backwards. He has run them too high. Sorry, earlier on in the stint and worn them off, and now he has less tread in them as he goes toward the finish. Everyone else running them pretty evenly, but I guess Pauly has run them a bit higher to keep more temperature in them, and that'll change the balance of the car. Not that it has affected him too much. He is comfortably in second. We thought Ayub might challenge at the end of the race, but that gap is growing. While Pauly Peltokangas is bringing the gap down slightly on Gabor. Not that it makes any difference. Gabor is 30 seconds up the road. It will take a catastrophe now for Pauly Peltokangas to win this race. But Pauly managing, interesting setup choice, but clearly working well for him. Good debut in the BF1 series for him.
Yeah, doing a great job. Just need to keep on going, and he's going to get a solid result. Top 5, 5th position is looking likely for a change, with Zdravko, of course, having to change his tyres, and Santos having done that already, so he's in a perfect position to claim 5th as we get to the finish of the race.
Watching Ayub come out of the final corner, the final real corner anyway. This is called 14, but it is a very fast sweeping corner, easy in a BF1 car. The tires on his machine look like they're in great working order. So they're giving him plenty of grip. His last lap was a 16.69. So no slouch, but I don't think there is any chance that this position is going to change. Pally Peltigangas is stretching that gap. Ayub El-Anouni falling backward. Rafael Costa nowhere near enough to Ayub to challenge for third position. So it looks like at the podium, barring any mistakes, any late safety cars, though a safety car this late in the race will probably cause a safety car finish. Looks like the podium is set, but we will look for Zdravko Duponiak to come into the pits and see if Igor Santos, there we go, perfect timing. Zdravko Duponiak ducks into pit lane as though I compelled him, and we will watch Igor Santos to see if he can come through and swipe fifth position off Zdravko Duponiak. The answer there, Tom, is easily done. He is through.
Yeah, the power of Travis compelled Zdravko into the pit lane, and on goes Santos to claim that fifth position. Now, I'm going to take a wild punt here and assume that Zdravko, he's gone onto the R4s. I assumed with just a couple laps left for him, he'd be driving on the R2s. He'd have the time, and
he only has 1 or 2 laps remaining, so he could easily make the R2s work.
He's got 4, I think it is, because Gabor's got 4 laps. So I'm going to take a guess that Zdravko also has 4 laps. So
because Zdravko is 2 laps behind Gabor, Tom.
Yeah, Gabor's on lap 71, Travis.
Fair enough, Tom. Let's take this argument offline as we watch Gabor come around the final corner. I think that's my mistake there. Tom, look, there's a bear. Don't tell Tom. Gabor coming across the line right now to start his 72nd lap. So 3 and of this one remaining. Gabor still in command of the race, also in command of driver of the day. No one can touch him as we watch him come through the first corner. Whoop, little close to the barrier there. Gabor still pushing, though. Here we go. Wild and crazy prediction, Tom. Pally Peltigangas will be able to finish this race within 26 seconds of Gabor, as that gap is shrinking.
I hope Gabor's listening. But it's very possible he could do that. Of course, as you were saying, his tyres are wearing down quite a bit. Whether he's got the pace to get within 26 seconds, end of the day, I think it's a little bit inconsequential. But Zdravko now got a lot of work to do to try and claim that 5th position back. Realistically, I don't think he's going to be able to achieve it unless he's just pulls an absolutely incredible pace out of nowhere. But anyway, there's 3 laps to go, 3-4 laps to go. Anything can happen, really. So never write him off fully.
No, indeed. Gabor always happy to run hot laps, even when he has a comfortable lead. But on the topic of hot laps, Pally Peltigangas is flying. He is pushing really hard. His best lap of the race is pretty far off Gabor's, but his best 15-14 laps looking like he will come awfully close to that time on this lap. He's on the power and then down through this sweeping corner, crushing the suspension at the bottom before turning back uphill. Across the line now to do a 15.43. So Pally Peltigangas, that gap now 26.5. One prediction today, maybe one of my predictions will actually come through. Gabor coming through the top part of the circuit now, up and over this crest, through that third gear right-hander, and then down the hill through this little chicane, and then around the back of the circuit. So Gabor still very comfortable in front, no challenge at all. Peltigangas not giving up. Should Gabor have to make a late trip through pit lane or make a small mistake, which we know he can do. He did 1 week ago. Pally Peltigangas putting himself as closely as he can to capitalize should something happen in front of him, though now he has back markers to negotiate. That is Igor Santos getting out of the way. Todd Gonzalez makes his stop. He should be on R2s now. He is indeed. Away he goes. Todd Gonzalez making those R3s work a very long time. Great strategy work from him. Gabor seems perhaps to have heard me, like Tom suggested, because he was on the traction control override coming out of the first corner, trying to put the power down as much as possible, more than the TC will usually afford. Pally Peltacongas flashes across the line, another 15.3. Though it looks like Gabor has turned up the wick a little bit and stabilized that gap. So Gabor, though he doesn't need to, 25.77. Gabor perhaps has relaxed a little bit, Tom. Maybe he does know how to chill out.
Well, Travis says we've both been in positions towards the end of races where we've really haven't needed a push, and it's just taking care at this point. Gabor's done this a lot. We know it's dangerous to fully relax, but I mean, you don't need to be pushing. He just needs to give it sort of 98%, and he'll be able to just cruise it on round. That being said, this is a man who just loves flying, and so he just doesn't stop, does he really? So pushing in laps again. Here we go across the line, doing a
race leader
6
on
to start the final lap of the race.
And there he is, the leader, Gabor, that Tom just spoke of, on the final lap of the race, up and onto the highway one more time. He'll take a ride down the exit for him, normally be an on-ramp, through this uphill bend, and then down the hill into the hairpin one last time. Beautiful shot looking down at the apex of the corner and onto the power and up the hill. Gabor, no challenge today. It looked early like Santusara might have something for him. Santusara led the opening laps of the race and then yielded to Gabor after his first pit stop. And since then, Gabor has been in total control of this race. Now coming through turns 11, 10, 11, 12. He'll come around turn 12 now and lines up turn 13 on the brakes, easily into the corner. Nice exit, lights up the rear tires, puts on a show for the fans. Full TC override, leaving some rubber for everyone else to see behind him. Up and over the railroad tracks, tight to the barrier. Gabor is a winner in Season 3 of the MRC BF1 League. Round 1 goes to Zdravko Deponiak after an uncharacteristic mistake by Gabor. But Gabor, the championship performance today, number 1, finishes in P1. We wait for second position to come across the line behind him. We expect that will be his teammate, Pally Peltacongas, cementing a very strong 1-2 finish for the Citus team. He is across the line now. Pally Peltacongas, second position for Team Citus. And across the line in third position will be Ayub in just a few moments. Igor Santos has already crossed the line ahead of Zdravko Deponiak, who is coming through behind Ayub Elanuni now. So Zdravko Deponiak will finish in sixth position behind Igor Santos, and we wait for fourth place to come across the line. That will be Rafael Costa. Ran very strong early on. And then Todd Gonzalez, once the order finally shakes out, there's Rafael Costa in fourth position. Todd Gonzalez will be credited with an eighth place position behind Zdravko Deponiak and Igor Santos once he finally comes. Sorry, not Igor Santos, Lucas Rosa, when he finally comes through, which he has done. There we go, the final results. Gabor in command the entire way, ahead of Pally Peltacongas, his teammate, and Ayub Elanuni rounding out the podium. Tom, lost a little bit of the excitement in the middle of the race. Drivers got strung out, had a few fights, but the highlight of this event, round 2, definitely Gabor and his masterclass in BF1 driving.
Yeah, he holds a lot of world records with this car. I think we know he has the world record here, and we know he's very quick in it, and he once again proves he really knows just how to drive this car.
Indeed. Final results, Gabor at the top. Also, there in the upper right, you can see the driver of the day goes to Gabor as well. So last season's champion, carrying number 1, finishes P1 in both of the races today, the race on track and in the driver of the day. And there we can see him lining up his podium finish right there ahead of the crowd. Wait for positions 2 and 3 to take up positions alongside him. While we wait for Pally Peltacongas and Ayub Elanuni to line up alongside Gabor, we will take a breath for just a moment, and then we will return for driver interviews. Don't go away. We will be right back in just a moment. Welcome back. We have just concluded round 2 of season 3 of the MRC BF1 League, the Grand Prix of London Borough at the South City Long Reverse Circuit. We have 2 drivers waiting for interviews. The first is second place finisher today, number 25, Ayub. Ayub, good show. In third place, my apologies. I just gave you credit for second. Sorry, I teased you there. Podium finish for you. Very strong performance. Looked like you had a good race early on with Rafael Costa. Tell us about your day.
Can you hear me first?
Yes, we can.
Oh, hello there, and yeah, thanks, Travis, for that. And I'm happy and unhappy at the same time because of I think I could do better, but it is what it is, and I'd say I'm happy for the podium.
Very good. Yeah, you had. It looked like there was a little bit of confusion at the start of the race. You were taking a pit lane start in the first aborted start, and then you took up the grid out of position after some confusion with drivers losing position on the formation lap. What happened in the first start, and then yeah, tell us about the second start.
So in the first start, I used my qualifying setup. I didn't change to the race setup. I totally forgot about that. I checked everything, fuel and tires, but somehow I missed the setup. So I noticed last second that I have a lot of grip when trying to warm up the tires. I was like, why this car have a lot of grip suddenly? And then I checked F12 and I found myself that I'm using the hot lap setup. So I went to the pit and asked for Deco to if I can change setup and start from the pit lane. That's fine for me. And there's somehow red flag has been around, and I was really lucky with that.
Yeah, definitely saved your bacon a little bit. But how did you find the track here today in London Borough? I know a lot of people found it quite difficult. We had quite a high attrition rate. What was your general game plan for going into the race?
Yeah, it's really a really hard track to drive. It's need a lot of concentration, like the West Hill track we ran last week, but you have walls instead of grass, so you can touch the wall here and there, and maybe it's not that bad, but it's really hard especially with mouse. It's really hard. My hands are really hurting right now.
Yeah, I also found that doing my own practice to learn about the race that my hands were very tired after I finished a full race stint. So hats off to you doing 2 of them and then a few extra laps. That is Ayub El-Anouni, third place finisher today. Ayub, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks.
All right, thank you so much. Bye.
Cheers, Ayub.
Bye.
And next up, we have fourth place finisher, challenged for the podium early on, Rafael Costa joining us in the commentary box. Rafael, it looked like you were on for a podium finish early. Very strong start for you. And then it seems like strategy just didn't go your way. Ayub able to get by you after you had a close race with him in the middle of the race. And then ultimately fourth place, what you have to settle for today.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Right. My pace was good. The qualifying, I qualified P2, which is very good for me. In race, I also had a good pace. I just wasn't expecting the R3s to last that long. When I'm working on my strategy, I normally try to make the fuel finish at the same time the tires finish, so I go back to the track with a complete new car, and it's less time you spent on having more pit stops or something like that. So I just wasn't expecting the R3s to last longer, and if I didn't know, I probably would have run the same strategy as everyone, and much probably I would have finished in P3. But also the guys that finished in the podium, they are very good. I have nothing to say about them. They're just which is very good. They did a great job today.
Yeah, they did indeed. So it sounds like it did come down to a strategy call, and unfortunately, unable. I guess you didn't realize that the R3s could double. We did notice some drivers, like Gabor at the front, ran his a little bit thin. So there were a few other drivers that ended up. We expected them to do 35 lap stints and ended up stopping short on the R3s. Did you test to see just how long you could make them last, or was it never a consideration for you?
Actually, yesterday I was doing some practice stints, and for my practice, it should be lasting the amount that I was expecting. But on the race, for some reason, it lasted longer than what I expected. So yeah, I did some practice, I did test, but for some reason in the race they lasted longer. So that's why I could not expect that. Makes
sense. So looking forward now, the server in the background has just switched over to this Singapore Grand Prix layout. You were very strong on the streets today. Talk about going ahead a couple weeks to the Singapore street circuit. Obviously, it's a layout, so you don't have as many of the visual cues that we get with the fully featured Live for Speed circuits. But do you feel like you'll be strong in Singapore?
I really can't say anything about it. I don't know the track. I can't expect anything. I can't promise anything. But if everything goes well, I'll be as strong as I am today.
Well, you get a preview of part of the circuit if you go watch the VODs for the MRC E-Challenge series, because a lot of the circuit features there. You can get a taste of it by watching the recap there. Once again, that is Rafael Costa, 4th place finisher today. Started second, caught out by strategy, but still a very strong performance. You should be proud. Thank you very much for joining us in the commentary box, Rafael.
Thank you.
And I believe that will do it for us today. There you can see the provisional standings on the screen as we get ready to go about our afternoons and evenings. Gabor, previous season's champion and winner today. Ahead of Pali Peltagongas, his teammate, in second position, and in third, Ayub El-Anouni. This was the second round of the championship, the Grand Prix of Lindbora. In a couple weeks' time, we will be in a custom layout, the Grand Prix of Singapore. It is part of the layout that we featured in the MRC E-Challenge series, completed to the full extent, the full length of the Singapore Grand Prix circuit. That one should prove to be very exciting, also very challenging in the BF1. Then round 4 a week after that, and then in June we will conclude the season, round 5, in just about a month and a half's time. I think that will do it for us today. My name was Travis Mehlinger. Tom, round out your thoughts.
Yeah, it's per normal. It's very exciting here at E-Challenge. Had a little lull in the middle there, but everything did pick back up again with the end with the drivers, the strategies coming to fruition for people, and a few drivers making a little bit mistakes here and there, but overall, another masterclass by Gabor. This time finished all the way through instead of a slight mistake towards the end. Did an excellent job, and we look forward to seeing some more excitement in a couple of weeks' time for round 3.
Yes, indeed. That's my friend and colleague Tom, and there you can see the rest of the broadcast team on the screen. That is Pete and Elmo in the background helping us spot all the action, control the cameras, do all of the cool broadcast integrations, and make these very nice broadcast graphics. We want to thank the MRC team for organizing the series. It is so much fun for us to present to you, and fun for us to get in and practice sometimes. We really enjoy being involved in this series. The New Dimension Racing team for helping to sanction it and run the race with the MRC team, putting on the show for us to bring to you. We are Sim Broadcasts wherever you are. We thank you very much for joining us and watching. We really appreciate your patronage. We could not do this without you. Wherever you are, be safe and be well. We will see you in a couple weeks' time for round 3 of the BF1 League. Thank you and goodbye.